Good evening to our wonderful listeners we have tonight with us. The most distinguished Dr. the Honorable Vince Henderson. I I think tonight it's going to be a very, very special program, and because we are just tonight going from the Ministry of National Security and Legal Affairs tonight and talk about the topic of national significance. And no one is better suited with the requisite expertise to walk us through that process than the man himself, Dr. the Honorable Vince Henderson, Jean Senzo, Backstreet St. Joseph, to be more specific. Tonight we'll be talking about a topic that is, very important, not only for today's generation, but generations to follow. And what better time to have this discussion? Of course, you can recall, those of us who were very young at the time, maybe Vince, maybe was 1 year old in 1973 when we had this first oil crisis. And we are seeing almost the reenactment of that reality that took place then. And that was a lesson for non-producing oil countries, and a pledge was made to try to depart from the heavy reliance on fossil fuel. But years thereafter, within the OECS and the wider Caribbean, so to speak, we have not seen any significant step towards utilizing the natural, I want to say wealth that we have, and we have geothermal in Dominica. And geothermal has been spoken about, geothermal energy has been spoken about for a long time, long before the advent of Vince Henderson and the Honorable Prime Minister. And in Dominica, during the days of Eau Blanc, for a matter of fact, we had a bill enacted into law during this time, and we had administrations thereafter, and nothing happened. Because the reality of it all, it is hard work to actually get into the actual generation of geothermal energy, from the study to the exploration process, and then to the actual production of the energy itself. That is serious hard work, big science, and it is going to require time and leadership, the political will and leadership and resources to do that. So tonight, this show belongs to the man himself, Dr. Henderson. We're going to have a discussion, and the journey to geothermal energy in Dominica has been a long one, slippery one. Of course, when you're traversing a very slippery track, you're going to fall. The important thing is how quickly you get up, and get up even stronger, and to pursue your objective with a greater degree of concentration and intensity. Dr. Henderson, let us start. Tell us something. Let us start and first stop, on that journey to where we are now at.
Yeah, well, good evening, Ray, and I want to say special good evening to the listeners of DBS Radio. I can tell you, Ray, you you have achieved a feat this evening.
Yes.
I cannot say when was the last time I sat in the studio of any radio station, and for me, I'm very happy to join you. And you have that persuading power because we have history, especially not just in politics beginning together in 1999, but also our journey together towards geothermal energy development in Dominica. So I'm very happy to be here with you tonight. I want to say special good evening to all the listeners, those at home, who are abroad, and thank you for joining us this evening. I hope that I will be able to share some lights on this topic that will be useful to our listeners. After all, that's the reason I'm here. So I'm very happy to be here with you. And I know, Ray, you'll agree. and give me a little credit, because remember the last time we agreed to come, you asked me to come, and I refused.
Yeah.
And I told you I will not come on until I am satisfied that we have power on the line that is stable. And the same night that we were supposed to be on, the power went out. I remember that night. So I'm glad that we're here tonight, and I do hope that the system, having been stabilized, will hold through the night, and we can have a very interesting discussion.
Yes, certainly. Yes. Let us begin, Vince, and tell us something about Dominica's story in terms of his pursuit to actually get into the point where we can say, yes, we are getting somewhere, and we are now starting to see some of the results. But before we get to that part of the discussion, tell us something about that journey, starting from maybe the inception of that pursuit.
Well, you'll recall when we got in office in 2000, I think it was as early as 2003, a conversation started on geothermal energy development. And that was initiated by the Organization of American States, the OAS. And they had a special program, the geothermal program of the Eastern Caribbean. The intention was to encourage and to assist governments in the Eastern Caribbean to develop their geothermal energy potential. But of course, as you said, we started our pursuits of geothermal energy long before 2003, that is to say, Dominica. In 1969, there was a study done by UNDP, the United Nations Development Program, and there were surface studies done to determine whether we had potential for geothermal energy. Obviously, there were already manifestations, our hot springs. We grew up, well, I don't know, you maybe not have that, but I grew up in Layu. And, Glosho, I hear people call it, they gave me the nice name now, the bridge there.
Yeah, the bridge.
How do they call it again? York Valley. No, that is Glosho. That's Glosho Bridge. So there was this, so we've had the manifestations all throughout Dominica. And like I said, I grew up in Layu, and I remember the days we used to walk up the river, go all the way up, past Layu River Hotel, and you would enjoy that little hot tub that was called glow. So these are manifestations that could say that there is in fact a potential for geothermal energy. So Dominica has been going through that since 1969. The studies were done, and then by 1974, the Labour Party government at the time, led by Oliver LeBlanc, that there was Edward Oliver LeBlanc, that there was in fact an act of parliament to develop geothermal energy, and of course creating the Dominica Geothermal Company. In 1993, under the Freedom Party administration, the leadership under Eugenia Charles, the late Eugenia Charles, I'm not sure if she was them then, and she gave, the Freedom Party gave a license to a company that intended to develop geothermal energy. I think that's Kerry MacDonald, and I'm trying to remember the name of his company, but at the time he was given a concession to develop geothermal energy, and nothing really happened. And so by 2003, when we started that conversation, he re-emerged, and I remember His Excellency, well, at the time he was just honorable like myself, Charles Savre, making some profound points that caused, at the time, Reggie Austri, Honorable Reggie Austri was minister, really was the interface on this, and he was able to raise his concerns with that company, and then they retreated. So we were able to move to develop our geothermal energy resource. So I'm giving you this context, the pre-2000 history. And then from 2000, when we got in office, 2003, we saw the emergence of people like Washwe Douglas, Afi Mate, Dr. Bevinatian. You remember your good friend in Washington?
What is his name?
Christian. Gabriel Christian, Gabe, and all of this distinguished Dominicans came together, and they were pushing Henry Shillingford. Yeah. They were really pushing the government at the time to move to pursue geothermal energy development. And I remember at the time that Afi Mate had already left us because he spent less than a year with that Dear Mona letter when he decided to step out because we supported whaling at the time, and he left the cabinet. But he remained close to people like myself and then young Roosevelt Skerritt. And he approached us and introduced us to a company, a Canadian company at the time. They incorporated a company called UNEC, United Networks of the Eastern Caribbean, to develop geothermal energy. And he tried to convince us that we should give that company a concession. Afi was an authority on geothermal energy at the time because he was this huge environmental protection figure. He had received an award. Actually, I met Afi in Johannesburg in 2002 when I attended as a young minister. I was Minister of the Environment at the time. I attended a World Summit on Sustainable Development together with the late Pierre Charles. And Afi was right there in Johannesburg leading the charge on sustainable development, and a pillar of that was renewable energy. And for him, he felt that for Dominica, the renewable energy source would be geothermal energy. And he really ushered us into this thing and pushed. Unfortunately, we did not sign the agreement with UNEC. But what he did, and he was very proud of it then.
Sorry, can you recall why we did not sign?
Because at the time, the guys did not have the wherewithal.
Okay.
They did not have the technology. They didn't have the expertise. So, for example, they had no geothermal experience. They had no developmental experience. They were just a bunch of interested guys from Canada who had a company for share capital of $50,000 at the time. That's what they said. They shared with me. We met at Fort Young. Skerritt was there. Skerritt got disinterested. I continued to be interested, and I went all the way to Exotica to meet with Afi to discuss further how we can move with this thing. And we felt that they did not have the wherewithal to do what we wanted to do, and we felt that they would merely become speculators.
Okay.
That is to say, they would get the license, and they would go to find some developers, some investors to develop our geothermal resource, and we turned it down. I mean, I was a young kid at the time. I was maybe about late 20, 30. I was maybe around 30 at the time. And I felt when I started doing my research that these guys were not what we needed. But the interesting thing, Ray, Afi very proudly made it public that he introduced that company to the government of St. Lucia. But yeah, what happened? They got a concession in St. Lucia, and they ended up in a situation where they held the government of St. Lucia hostage because they would not develop the resource, yet they would not surrender the concession back to the government after not having performed for 20 years. And I was the chairman of SIDSTOC at the time, the Sustainable Energy Organization of Small Island Developing States, when I was at the UN. And I remember having raised $30 million for renewable energy for small island states. At the time, Dominica got $2 million. You were the minister at the time, I think, right? We got your $2 million US, and your brother Lucian was the PS. We had a similar amount for St. Lucia. They could not take advantage of that because the concession was still in the hands of UNEC, which is a company that Afi had introduced to St. Lucia that he tried to bring to Dominica. Well, at least based on what he said. He said he was the one who introduced them to St. Lucia because we didn't want them. But the wisdom prevailed, and we decided we are going to develop our resource. We tried. I remember going to Buyat with Washway Douglas. Washway used to come at my home. He used to bring all the scientists from BRGM, the French geologists and geophysicists, and we have all these discussions and give me all these huge presentations. And it really spurred my interest. And I have to say thank you to people like Washway Douglas, for helping to get me so much interested, although he had some very unpleasant things to say and accusations, which is barely the story of my life, nothing new. But we worked together back then, and we sought to push through. So that is the early days. And remember DSEC? You remember that?
Yeah.
And, Ray, I say, man, a part of mine love to use that expression. I feel sometimes, boy, the same. I was the one who was given the responsibility very early. I remember at the time, Reggie Reggie Austri said to me, boys, you that smart, is you that go big school, is you that like them things there, take that. I can't deal with that. Deal with that geothermal thing. And so since then, I had the portfolio of geothermal without having it, formally or legally, but being given the responsibility. So when we get the submissions, as you remember, because by that time you had already gotten into the cabinet, and although very early days you were a special advisor to the Prime Minister, so you were always very close to the process. And when we had submissions from about 5 companies, and I remember painstakingly going through all of the submissions, reviewing them, and writing up an assessment of them. So I did that back then, and I remember DSEC, the Dominican Sustainable Energy Company, that was created with Gabriel Christian and the likes. And I remember making a strong case that they be given an opportunity. And I'm not sure if you recall, they actually presented to the cabinet. And we felt, though, at the time, that they were not adequately prepared, because at the same time we were being approached by the French. Remember EDF?
Yeah, EDF,
Electricité de France. EDF had already approached us, so they had a submission there, and we decided, boy, we need to look at this closely. We have to get this right, because we were advised at the time by the OAS study that we had, tremendous potential. We're talking about 3 gigawatts of power potential. Again, I have learned from my own.
Maybe you want to just break that down for the ordinary folks.
Well, okay, I like to put it in context. Yeah. Let's say we use 20 megawatts of power for Dominica to supply all of Dominica at the highest amount demand, which is like a really hot day, all air cons on, offices open. So that's the maximum. Say about 20 megawatts. 3 gigawatts. You can do the math. 3 gigawatts is almost like 1,000 times that. So that is power that we will never be able to use 100 times that. Sorry, we'll never be able to use that quantity of power. Yeah. And we felt that the best thing was to develop that resource to export to Martinique and Guadeloupe.
Right.
And that is where the French connection came in, which took us to another phase of our pursuits to develop geothermal energy. And I think at that time, so we had Charles Savre at the time, was minister.
Yes.
When we were able to attract the first set of funding. And that's why I'm so glad. I come in all the way and I watching myself there on the TV there, I seen on your screen there, and I seen all my grey showing. I never really painted them. I kind of like them in the natural form. They remind me of how far I've come. Yeah. And I give thanks every time. But Ray, I kind of more mellow now, I kind of more mellow now. A time like before, I would have answered plenty fellas. I calling my name on the radio. This constituent of mine who lives outside of Dominica, I don't know if, he what's his name? The guy, he was our ambassador at the UN. What's his name again?
Oh, Crispin.
Yes. Yeah. Crispin Gregoire. Yeah.
That's a story by itself.
Yeah. And Crispin gave people, the Dominican public, and I heard Sean Douglas try to repeat that once in the parliament. I was upset then. I remember he really caught fire me on that one, because it was just pure fabrication, it was just lies. They just lie. Crispin Gregoire gave people the impression that he was the one who got funding for geothermal. I think he even told them he was the one who invented geothermal energy. I think he went that far. But the truth is, it was, at the time, Eddie Lambert. Eddie Lambert was a special advisor to the Prime Minister, but he was also the NAO, National Authorizing Officer for the European Commission. So he was the one who made submissions on our behalf for funding through the EU. And at the time, as I said, Charles Arbor was the minister. And it was Eddie Lambert who found out a way to actually get us to access funds from the EU to start the first exploration wells. Remember, we got about 6 million euros for that. And it was a program called Interreg.
Right.
And I know we have French people listening to us, or people who speak the French language. And so Interreg was really a system created by the European Commission where countries, non-European Union countries who were neighbors to European territories like Guadeloupe and Martinique could jointly make an application to the European Commission to access funds for a joint program. So geothermal energy, our first exploration, the funds we really got in earnest, were really to perform or to develop the resource together with Martinique and Guadeloupe. So we got access to the funds. We actually formed a tripartite agreement with Dominica, Martinique, and Guadeloupe. So we formed that agreement and we accessed the funds. We got assistance from ADEM, which is the environment organization of the government of France. AFD, you remember, Agence Française de Développement. We got funds from them as well. And so separately, apart from the European Commission funds, we got funds directly from France because of the presence of Martinique and Guadeloupe on that project. So we're able to move ahead and drill 3 exploration wells, if you recall.
Yes.
Remember, we had one in we had one in Wattenwaven.
Wattenwaven was also being the injection well.
Yeah, but we had one in Wattenwaven. Yeah. Well, the injection well was in Lily Valley. But remember the first well that was done in Wattenwaven?
Yes,
we had to abandon it because the high sulfur content there.
Yeah.
Right. So we had one in Wattenwaven, one in Loda, close to at the time the aerial tram, and then we had one in Trafalgar. So we were able to triangulate and to determine where the resource, in Loda, 2 of them in Loda. We had one right inside and one where we actually use it now, where we actually did the production. So we have 3 wells. That was used to determine the reservoir, it is called. So a reservoir is basically, it is where the steam comes from. It is area under the earth, and it's way down. It's about 1 mile down. It can be 2 miles down. And it is where the heat comes up from under the earth and come out as steam. So what the entire area, and in the case of the Rosa Valley, it's about 15 square miles. So we have this huge reservoir under the earth, and that is where the steam is coming from. So these 3 wells were used to triangulate, to determine, and to get a visual of how the resource is under the ground. And that was the first step. And that's why we were reluctant to give other people to just come in. And you remember, Ray, there was another group. You remember the group from the US and Iceland? Reykjavik Geothermal.
A good fellow from New
Herman Charles from Point Michel.
Point Michel,
right.
Yeah.
So these guys they approached us and they wanted us to abandon our geothermal project with the French and the European funds with the test wells to go straight into production wells.
Yes.
I, at the time, had gone to New York, and I was the ambassador to the United Nations, permanent representative to the United Nations. And this company, RG, they were very close to our office. So I would walk down with a man, or a woman would walk up, and then they would meet over and over, and they tried their best to convince us. They came to Dominica, met with our team, got people excited, and were trying to convince us to go ahead with them. But guess what they did? When we turned them down, again, same story as UNEC. They went across to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And they met my friend there who was the head of the geothermal unit at the time. And they convinced the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines to allow them to develop the geothermal energy. And the guys drilled 3 wells. I don't think they did the 3rd one. But they did not get the type of resource that they expected. So this is again another cautionary tale, a lesson for us. Some things are not, sometimes, boy, you don't got shortcuts. You have to take your time and go through the grinds. Try to get it right. There is always a probability, a chance that something may not work, but try to get it right. So St. Vincent, against my advice, because at the time I was very much involved in SIDSDOC and SICRI and creating institutions for renewable energy in not only the Caribbean but throughout the world, because we set up one as well in the Pacific. And I tried my best to advise because I had the benefit of working closely with a lot of experts. And the advice was, take your time, prove the resource, and then you can start production. They tried a shortcut. They burned $15 million, and today they really don't have the kind of resource that they need to create a geothermal power plant. So because they were excited that they were going to beat us, they were going to get there before us. I remember sharing a panel together with the head of their geothermal unit at the time in Mexico City. And he came and he tried to, throw a little shade on us. Basically, Dominica's been wasting time, 10 years, the guys doing this, and they can't get this thing going, and we're just going to drill production wells, and within 2 years we have power on the grid. I said, okay, fine. And I remember the words I said to him then. I said, my friend, neither of us has been able to put 1 kilowatt of power on the grid. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's wait for that day when we can do this, and then we'll determine which approach is the better. So I said to him, let's take our time. Now, I don't take any pleasure in saying I told you so, because I have spent the better part of my adult life pushing the development of renewable energy in small island developing states. And I want to see St. Vincent and the Grenadines get it right. I still want them to get it. I have been working closely with Montserrat, with St. Lucia, with Grenada, and trying to encourage other countries to do the same. So that's our story.
But Doc, before you go though,
yeah,
you spoke about St. Lucia and St. Vincent and Montserrat. But you may recall that we had an experience in St. Kitts and Nevis. For a matter of fact,
yes,
I can recall going to Nevis with
yes.
Eddie Lambert, the permanent secretary, went because they were working then. I think it was West Indies Power at the time.
That's right. With Kerry McDonald. Yes,
right.
Yes.
And they actually drilled.
Yes.
That well in Nevis. That is, and then we went there, and then up to today, and they were supposed to be ahead of us.
That's right.
But let us just go back, because it's important for us to go back to the genesis of the whole thing, because to see how that the hard work, the thinking, the leadership, and that the Prime Minister himself has been on board from day one. You can recall we talked when we went to France along with Eddie Lambert. I said,
yes,
don't talk about what happened. That was the end.
No, I'll behave.
No, behave yourself, right? So and the Prime Minister was actually part of the delegation, and it shows us his intimate, his interest and his leadership that should not go unnoticed here. So going back, because you recall that we did the test wells and a production well in 2012.
Yes, so
and that production well is being used today. Okay, so it tells you about the thinking and the planning, and that it's going to require a political party in office that understand the assignment, that this thing is going to actually change Dominica, but you have to have the time, you have to have the patience. And I can recall, I can get that joke. You were not there but at the time, but I gave you the joke. Man used to laugh me, I was doing them. They said, I'm going to open it well and watch this steam. You understand? I hope it's listening.
I know that joke well.
Right. Right. Now, the thing is, we also have to give our commendation to Alexis
George.
Yes. This Timothy guy,
Jason Timothy. Yes.
And who at the time within the unit.
That's right. Lynn George.
George, right?
John, sorry. Lynn John.
John. And we have intimate knowledge of those days. But so it is hard work. It's not. It is a stuff. And then so I want us to actually qualify that, and it's important to go back to the genesis, because I have a lot of us talking about geothermal so long, and then I am happy that you were able to give that kind of detail, going back to where we started, so people can get an appreciation, the hard work, the patience, the leadership required to get us to the point where
I'm happy you made that reference, because I think it's important. I remember in those days, and boy, this thing is not easy, and people who come to Dominica, who understand the technology, who understand the challenges with doing a system like this in a small island state, and we'll talk about that when we come to present day. It's not easy. As one described it, boy, you guys have pulled a little miracle there. But leadership is important in that process, because after we got the grants and we did the exploratory wells, and we determined that we had, and I know Charles I'd love to say it, I say that we have the It was commercially viable, but we had the right temperature and pressure and adequate temperature and pressure to make a viable commercial project. We the quality and the quantity of the resource. So we had that. We had the temperature, we had the permeability, and also even the content, the composition. But leadership is important, because after we did that and we determined the resource was viable, the Prime Minister at the time was also Minister of Finance, secured a loan from AFD. Remember, we got that loan from AFD, the €6 million to do the production and reinjection wells. One in Lady Valley for the reinjection, and the production well up in Loda, which we're using today, as you said. And that's a viable well. That's a great well. And that meeting you made reference to in Paris, it really touched at the time the leadership of AFD. They couldn't believe that the Prime Minister actually sat we spent 2 days just sitting, workshopping solutions. And this is why the kind of discipline is required. Leadership is about discipline as well. Discipline. You could actually sit through a session and try to workshop solutions. So we went through that. We met with, at the time, what was the name of the representative from Guadeloupe? Was Laurent? Who was also at the time Minister Latrome, and he was able to assist and to help us to meet a new consortium. Because the other thing we should say, we failed 3 times with the French, negotiating with the French.
3 times, and
it was difficult.
Yes.
And I have memories of all the time. I remember once I had to inform you. Another time I had to inform Ian. Ian was holding the file for a period of time as well. And I remember those days. After we spent several months. I mean, I can't recall how many times I went to Paris. I swear we were going to Paris almost every month, negotiating, and sometimes we'll meet in New York, we'll meet in Boston. We even met in Guadeloupe once, negotiating. And that time I brought Domlec, the IRC. We had a big team from Dominica. And we negotiated with the French. Different consortiums, different compositions. And it failed 3 times. But the lesson there, I remember the first time, when we were negotiating with EDF, and it was EDF and NG. Remember my partner, same birthday with me?
You can call his name.
Gabriel, remember Gabriel?
Yes, yeah.
Right,
Gabriel.
so Gabriel and that team, when I remember when we were negotiating, they wanted us to stop the production and reinjection wells. We said no. We're continuing. We're negotiating with you. But we are going to continue because we were trying to give ourselves leverage. Because we felt that if we're able to make that investment, it means we'll have a bigger share and control of our resource. So we continued. We got that loan. We went ahead and we made the investment. So that went well. The reinjection well wasn't, that hot, but it was good enough for a project. By the time the negotiations failed, we had already have our well. So another group came. So it gave us some leverage. So we started saying, hey, we already have our wells. So you're going to have to work with us. We got far, and at the end of the day, it fell apart. The third time, we decided to try, but that was after we went on our own. Because here's another story about leadership, and I have to give Prime Minister, I have to express my gratitude and recognize his steadfast leadership in that process. Because I will never forget, the second disappointment we had was just around Tropical Storm Erica, 2015. I remember that was the second disappointment. I remember where I was every time I got the bad news. And I went to PM and said, boy, PM, the fellas pull out on us again. But I given you my commitment that I want to push this through, if you will allow me. My suggestion, let us create our own company. And I'm going to the World Bank and I'm going to convince them to give us the funds to do this project on our own. So I want to share that story because back then I was well sorted after for attending and presenting at workshops and conferences all over the place. And especially because we had created together with Dr. Al Binger, my mentor, and he was the one who pushed me to go, and he wanted me to do energy. He wanted me to study energy to do a master's degree. He got a program for me, and then I decided, no, I going to do law and policy and focus on energy law and policy, and that's why I ended up doing the doctoral program. He was one of my sponsors together with Dr. Aaron, and I got through that program at Northeastern University. I never answered some guys who said I had a JD and I come back Dominica and let people call me doctor like a fella from St. Joe. But St. Joe had the history of that. Everybody know Lawyer Te. He came down with a JD and he was trying to give people the impression that he was a PhD. But anyway, so that is how we came through with coming back to that. So I used to go out there and do all of these presentations. And throughout that journey, I was blessed because I really got exposure, I have to say. I got a lot of exposure. And I told the PM, I can get the World Bank to agree to finance this for us. So I went to, the World Bank invited me to Vienna. I remember going to Vienna once for Vienna Energy Forum. I made a case. They were still not convinced. I spoke to the head of SMAP at the time. That's the energy unit at the World Bank. It was Rohit Khanna, who was the head of SMAP at the time. Then I went up to Washington. They invited me to Iceland. They invited me to Iceland. And I sat through a presentation. They had the guys from KenGen, Okaria, Kenya, and some other, a whole lot of different companies that were developing geothermal. And they published a special publication on renewable energy. And I read the Indonesian case. And I used that because at the time I was also doing my research. And I remember preparing a paper and I presented it to the World Bank. I went to Washington. I invited at the time Ambassador Hubert Charles with me. We met with the head of the practice unit. He was a Brazilian guy. And I went there with this other gentleman who recently did some work for us. I think you were Jamadira. You remember he used to be in Dominica. He was the first team leader who used to come with us. And we did a lot of work together. So when we went to his boss, and I had to do my presentation. So I'm sitting there and I'm trying to make my case. I'm trying to convince them. So they told me there are 3 things you need if you're going to do a successful project, but you don't have it. Say Dominica doesn't have the capacity. Dominica doesn't have the legal, the technical, or the financial capacity to deal with this project. I said, okay, fine. But guess what? At the time, remember I'd introduced you to the Clinton Foundation?
In Barbados, right.
We're doing Barbados in 2012.
Yes.
So at the time, I had gotten the Clinton Foundation, introduced them to the islands throughout the Pacific and the Caribbean, and they provided us technical assistance. Mm-hmm. You remember we had John Hackney, then we had David Winstrop, and
what's the guy name?
There was a
he was a lawyer or something.
Yes. I try to remember. Yeah, but we had a team. Mm. We had a team on the finance side, on the resource side, and on the legal side. So they all came. Yes, we had one of the most expensive law firms in New York. Mm-hmm. We had Proskauer at one time. Then we had Holland and Knight, and we had access to these guys, and they had committed about $1 million in technical assistance to us. So I had David Wenstrup on the finance side, then we had Proskauer on the legal side, and then we had on the geothermal side, we had secured from New Zealand a grant of $2 million for technical assistance as well. And at the time, Francine Barron was the minister. I remember when she signed that agreement, because I had gone to New Zealand myself. I was at I presented at one of their sessions in Auckland, and that is where I met people like they have a geothermal czar there, Dr. Mike Allen, a brilliant scientist, and we were able to work and to put a package together and present it to the World Bank. The World Bank agreed, and that is when we formed in 2016 the Dominica Geothermal Development Company. So DGDC was formed at the time through that initiative, and the World Bank had already committed $21 million for that project. So from 2016, we worked our way trying to develop that project, negotiating and preparing and doing all the work that we needed to do. And then by 2019, we went to market. That was during elections. Yeah. We went to tender. 2 companies tendered. And when they got, because by that time, remember, Hurricane Maria had hit us. Mm-hmm. And I forgot that part. So 2015, tropical storm devastated the south of the island. 2 communities dislocated. We had to relocate. The Prime Minister gave me the commitment that he was going to provide us with $5 million to get Dominica Geothermal Development Company moving. Mm-hmm. He did that. By 2017, Hurricane Maria hit us.
Yes. And that, I think it is important, Dr. Henderson, to underscore that, because here it is, notwithstanding those two serious devastation, the government never set aside that pursuit. And I think something we must also underscore is that the wells remained intact.
That's right. That's right.
And it speaks to
That's
how
right.
how resilient, you understand, geothermal energy in itself can be. And I
That's
think
right.
that is something
That's
we
right.
also need to give some currency to,
Yeah.
and somewhere in the discussion. Yes.
So by 2017, after we got hit, I went to the Prime Minister. I say, boy, I was in Dominica at the time. PM, boy, what we gonna do now, boy? Tell me we're going ahead, man. We're going ahead. So we continued. And by 2019, we had gone to tender. When the tenders came, because of the devastation of Hurricane Maria, it spooked the companies. They were scared and they had to design to be resilient, and then they overcompensated and they came up with this designs that were way above and beyond what was expected. And so at the time we had $32 million because we had already attracted 10 million from the UK government. So the UK government granted us a $10 million facility for geothermal energy development. SIDSDOC came in with $2 million and the Canadians made a significant contribution through the Clean Technology Fund, the CTF. They put another $4 million that we could use if necessary. So we had the package of funding, and we decided, boy, the companies came in, the tenders came in, and you know the cheapest one was $70 million US.
I can recall that.
More than twice what we had, almost twice what we had already allocated. So we had to abandon the project. But it didn't end there, because the real challenges started around that time. So by 2020, COVID hit. I was out. I remember because after the tender failed, I met a company in the UK. They had Icelandic roots, but registered in the UK. I met with them because they had a different technology they wanted to introduce. That didn't work out. It was being headed by a UK Nigerian gentleman, and but the head at the time was an Icelandic gentleman. We tried them. We looked at that. We explored that possibility, and by the time I had scheduled a meeting in France, in Paris, with the French again, because they were still interested in having the conversation, because one of the companies tendered, and it was when COVID hit, and I had to run back to New York and get to Toronto. And I remember I ended up in New York the last day of the closing of the travel ban. So that story I wanted to share, because it showed that even during the pandemic, we were still busily working on that. I remember having several meetings with the Prime Minister at the time and the Financial Secretary, and trying to find out what is the best option. But just a little thing I wanted to share, because that's another lesson, and I want to leave that lesson to some of us who are listening. Those of us senior public officers, government officials, and people who have to make decisions. When we interface with these big multilateral organizations or companies, multinational companies, and so forth, we have to know what we want. We have to be very sure about ourselves. So we need to do our work, do our research, be sure about what we're presenting. Because during COVID, when we're negotiating a new form of the geothermal project with the World Bank insisted on downgrading the size of the plant. That's the first time I'm saying this publicly. Because we were looking at developing a 7 megawatt plant. They told us, because of what happened, let's go down to a 5 megawatt plant, because anyway we don't have the demand for that. And that is why I had already brought Fred John in. You recall, I had asked for your approval.
Yeah.
I remember coming to you when I presented the new board of the DGDC.
Yeah.
And Fred John was one of the directors. My cousin Nelson Pierre, Clarence Christian was in there. Dr. Eddie Scotland, also a member of the board. And I remember sitting with Fred. So after the tender failed, Fred came in as almost full-time with us. And Fred and I were the two consultants pushing this project. And the World Bank team leader at the time decided, no, we're not going ahead with a 7 megawatt plant. Let's downscale this thing. We refused. And we got a company, and that's one of the benefits of me having been out. I remember I was in Florence, Italy, and I met with Steam at one of the geothermal conferences. There's a company in Italy called Steam, and I met with them, so I knew them. ISO had worked with us during your time too, Ray. And ISO was well known. I used to meet ISO reps all over the place. So I said to Fred, you know what? Once I get the PM to sign off, we are going to use some of the funds we have to engage companies to do our own assessment for us. So we're not going to rely on just the World Bank and the technicians they bring in. So we did our own assessment of the resource. And both companies said to us that we can do a 10 megawatt plant very easily in Loda, with everything in Loda. So we no longer had to, because what caused the problem in 2019, the high cost of the project, was because we had to build a reinjection line from Loda all the way to Lily Valley.
Yeah.
And we had to go down, man, let me tell you, this was a very expensive undertaking. And we came with a design that would do the production wells as well as the injection wells in Loda. Within proximity, it had to be about a kilometer apart. And again, with directional drilling, we were able to even get more than that. So we're able to design that new plant. But the other thing we did, Ray, that was risky at the time, I will admit. 6 years later, I'll admit it was risky. We decided, boy, if we're going to make that investment, we can't go with 7 megawatts. Let's go with 10.
Yeah.
So we decided to do a redesign for 10. And again, the consultants were supportive. They said, yes, we feel that because of the same production well that we drilled when you were minister, that production well already has 10 to 12 megawatts. Because when we went back to test, it had 12 megawatts,
Yeah.
So they said that you already have a viable well. If you get a reinjection that can take the steam, the brine, and you can do a 10 megawatt plant. So when we decided to go to market, the market said to us, guys, we're not going to leave Iceland to come to Dominica to drill one well. So we had to go back to the World Bank and make our case. And we made a successful case. So we were able to utilize the funds we had to do 2 wells instead of 1. And that is why now in Loda, we have 2 production wells. 2 viable production wells that can give us about 20 megawatts of power combined.
And I think it's important for us to actually bring that to the attention of the public, because some people may believe, okay, we have spent all that money and just 10 megawatts, which is not true. and then we also need to say at some point, it's already after 9, that because we have this. We have this no longer potential. We have this resource, right?
Yep.
And then I believe if we're able to sell to different departments of Guadeloupe and Martinique, already we had done that study.
Yeah.
With submarine cable, and so it's a science that entails a lot of work. And so I believe that the public needs to know that also, that we have been futuristic in our planning, not only for our own consumption, but to sell that excess resource that we have there.
So Ray, you're right, because 10 years ago, even more than 10 years ago, actually, more like 15 years ago, when we started our negotiations, because by 2010, we started around 2010, we started negotiations with French consortia. What we did essentially was with the view of exporting power. A lot of work was done. You're right. There was studies done on the subsea cable. Actually, there was already an estimated cost for that. We were able to look at the resource and to determine that we had in the Roseau Valley, we can safely, at a high level of confidence, we can say we have about 66 megawatts of power within the Roseau Valley, within areas that we can access, because sometimes people talk about potential, but potential must make sense. You have to be able to access it. So in the Roseau Valley, we have that. Some scientists say, well, maybe not with a higher degree of confidence, we can say we have 120 megawatts. But not just us, but the banks will not finance a project if there isn't a high degree of confidence. And in this case, that's why we had that investment, and we have the possibility to expand even further with that high level of confidence. So that is one thing. The other thing I wish to say, and to further your point, is that the Rosa Valley geothermal area, which was developed over time, is essentially what we've done. We've made the investment, and let me just take my time to explain this. So we had to improve the roads, right? The access. Remember, we had to expand the corners in order to get the 60-foot equipment to get up there. And I have to say, boy, Ada, I don't know, boy. Them fellas, Dominica have some skillful people.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
I mean, Ada Trucking has been able to get these things up there for us, and God knows. I mean, you're talking about 60-ton stuff, 60 feet. I mean, huge stuff.
Yeah.
But so we made the investment in expanding the road. Secondly, we had to create platforms. Access routes first, so you see our new concrete roads to all the wells, to the power plant. But we also had to create what is called what is usually called a well pad. So when you're going to drill for geothermal, you create a pad. So you will have, say, maybe an acre, 2 acres. In our case, we have about 2 acres plus, maybe 4 acres actually in the top, where we actually have to create a pad, concrete, level first, and that's very expensive. So level the area, make sure it's solid, stable, and in some cases we had to concrete essential parts of it. We created 2 of those, one for production, well, 3 actually, because we have 2 production wells. Now in each area we could actually accommodate 3 more wells. So we build them to accommodate 4 wells, and we only have 1 per pad. The point is, we can actually decide to go to Rosa Valley now, go to Loda, and we can easily get to 66 megawatts by drilling on the existing well pads. So that is money you don't have to invest in. So we have currently the possibility of producing 20. Well, we have over 20 megawatts of steam available now in the Rosa Valley in Loda, and we are utilizing 10 megawatts. So that is a big investment that can easily be scaled up quickly. Doc, if we want to. If we
just pause a while to acknowledge some of our listeners on DBS Radio's Facebook page. I see your partner there, Reynold Alexander. Alcindor. Good evening to you, sir. And they're picking up their power up there. And Teresa Luis, you're always there. And Albinois, and all the great folks listening and viewing this program there. Doctor, another issue I've been hearing from some folks, and as you're there, maybe you want to just maybe try to give them some information by way, and maybe to, or also to edify, that this project has been taking so long, and we're not able to attract investment. I mean, what you have just detailed a while ago, the importance of the test wells, and to make the project a bankable one. Because the element of risk that's involved, you're not going to really attract the kind of investment at the test well level because of the element of risk. Maybe it's the highest around. Maybe you want to just shed some light on that.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Mary. Because sometimes I don't know. I try to make that joke, but people don't get the context. You remember that Geico ad? There was a Geico ad. People, please just follow me. Listen, and the guy would say, "This is so easy. Even a caveman could do it." I mean, we really treat this thing. We make it look so easy that even a caveman think he can do it. Yeah. Now, it's no disrespect to anybody. I'm not calling anybody a caveman, but the truth is, sometimes we don't speak to the difficulties, the challenges, the complexities involved in those things. And maybe sometimes I have to blame myself because I get carried away when I talk about geothermal. I get excitable, and I'm always eager to speak, and people maybe get the impression that this is easy. So you're right. Now something to that we have to tell ourselves. All of us have an opinion, and thank God for that. We can think, we can perceive, we have our senses. But the truth is, it is not what you say or what you want. It is what what's feasible, what is bankable. In this case of geothermal now, let me get to the real term, is what is bankable. Now, it's the same would apply for any renewable energy source. Because I hear people say, oh, why don't go to solar? Why don't do this? Why that? It will be cheaper and so forth. Yeah, I remember challenging the World Bank at a conference, and they were not very pleased because they were comparing solar prices in India with Dominica. The average wage in India maybe is like $5 US. If I go and give my worker on my farm, 20 US, you'll still watch me coupe here, and I have to get more, and then Blackmoore, you wouldn't be happy because I know you will have to live the minimum wage. But the point is, it is what is bankable. Bankability means that when everything is considered, the calculations are done, that the project is viable and can make it. So we had to de-risk. So we had to make the upfront investments to de-risk the project. Then we had to get DOMLEC. So and I want to take time, to speak about this. Let me don't go too fast. So the challenges with a project of this nature, first thing, 10 megawatts, somebody has to buy it. So that is called an off-taker. So there's a supplier, somebody producing and supplying the power, the seller, and there's a company buying it. They call it the off-taker. So DOMLEC in this case is the off-taker. Now DOMLEC has to be able to take the power, first of all. Physically, technically, they have to be able to take the power. And I will get to how we have ensured that happen. But secondly, DOMLEC has to be able to pay for the power. Mm-hmm. Now, a bankable project means that investors must be made whole. So if DOMLEC, for some reason, not the force majeure. Force majeure is treated differently. Something happens, and DOMLEC has to always be able to pay their bills. Now, you cannot just say to the company, in this case, the Dominica Geothermal Power Company, that, hey, we will pay you, man. We're good for that. We got money in the bank. We're good for that. No, you have to be able to bring some evidence, and usually in this case is what is called a guarantee. Mm-hmm. Now, a guarantee from an international company like OMAT has to be something that is maybe AAA rated, something coming from a bank that is AAA rated, or a country, or some instrument that they can trust. But here's what we're able to do. So when we got to that challenge, and that's how a lot of lessons learned, and I have a lot of pressure on me to share Dominica's experience. And thank God I have Fred. We have young Dalton Elwa there as well. Lynn John has been involved, and now we have Shaisha coming up really good. Rita, my former classmate, Rita Detush. She, right. We have good people now who will help to share and explain some of those things. And even my friend, just in case at the IRC, and Jason Timothy that you mentioned, are some people who will be able to help. But some of the intimate experiences that they may not have been exposed to. So things like guarantees, we had to create for the first time. Never been done anywhere in the world before. That we had to get Global Environment Facility funds, grant money, $8 million, and use that money to create a special guarantee to give to OMAT. So in the event that DOMLEC cannot pay, they sure that their funds will be available. So we had to create that. And that was very difficult. So all of these are things that companies come in to make those kinds of investment, want to ensure. And you recall, Ray, that we had to go to Parliament to secure the first $5 million US.
Yeah.
Now you know that. Now there's a story behind that. It was me and my fastness, again during COVID. I ended up in Dubai during COVID because OMAT wanted to meet. Unfortunately, they had just normalized relations with the UAE, and they were able to travel there. We met there. And I said to them, well, we're trying to get the geothermal project going again. You won the tender the last time with the French consortium. You had the best bid under the World Bank project. We would like to invite you back, but this time we want to explore an option. If we were to bring you in to just construct the plant for us, what would you require? And how would you, in order to avoid losing time, how could you move quickly? That was the thing. How do you move quickly? And they said to me, if you give us a $5 million US guarantee, we can start designing the plant. We can start doing all the works that we need to do internally. So by the time you have your funding secure, we can move quickly. And then when we decided to use them as a developer, they came back with that same request because they wanted to move. We wanted them to move quickly. And I thank you, Ray, for your support, and thank my cabinet colleagues eventually for their support. We were able to go to the parliament and secure the $5 million US. And that was one of the best decisions we took, because look at where we are now in the Strait of Hormuz. Look at the price of fuel now.
Yes.
So let's come to that.
Yeah, and that is why it is important for us to go back to the genesis of this project itself, of this journey, the start of this journey, and to walk through and to get to the point where we're now at. And the reason why I'm saying that, it takes me to the next point, Vince, that you still have people in Dominica living their own reality. Yes, and so like this, in my view, that this geothermal project itself, to me, is one of the most significant project this country has ever seen. Now, some people talking about it has taken us so long. You made reference to Erica, Maria, COVID, but you also spoke about New Zealand. I can recall the ambassador coming to Dominica when we at Fort Young. I was the minister then.
Yeah,
of
Henderson,
course.
my cousin. Yeah. She used to call herself.
but it took New Zealand for the initial part of the geothermal energy pursuit. 13 years. Costa Rica, I can recall going to Costa Rica too. And it took them 12 years without any significant disaster, man-made or natural. And in this small island state, you understand, that has been challenged over the years to the highest degree, was able, or is able, you understand, to have a success story. And for people who are supposed to be leaders, not having an appreciation for what we have done together. You see what I'm saying?
That's right.
As a people, as a nation.
Right. So,
and the leadership
Ray,
that comes with it.
Ray, I let me tell you, I've heard a lot of things said, but like I said, I try to block up the noises. I listen to concerns, don't get me wrong, because obviously we have to be sensitive to the public. But you have to separate the noise from the music. And I will tell you, man, I don't think people. Let me go back, because as you were saying that, something that came to mind is an experience I had in Miami at CREF, the Caribbean Renewable Energy Forum. I think you may have been there, or I know Lucian attended some in those days, and I can tell you, I sat on a panel. That was a couple years before we actually brought ORMAT to really develop the project. I shared the panel with a representative of ORMAT. And I was there, boy, under my depression, because I've been pushing this so long, and every time it's a challenge, something not working out. The guy said, I didn't say anything to the guy, I didn't ask him any question, but we were on the panel, and somebody, a question was posed to him, and he said, on average, it takes 10 to 12 years to do a geothermal project.
That's the point I'm making.
So because he was saying, when you go, if you go and Macchio, not on an island, he wasn't talking about an island experience, and I want to come too. He was talking in a mainland, in a huge country, advanced economy, without the hills and mountains that we have, without the challenges on the port, because remember, when our equipment comes in, we have to have the port for a dedicated period of time. We have to occupy a lot of space on the port, which we barely have. And so even without those challenges, when they have to go through the testing, through the permitting, through the development of the plant itself, to spec, and all of these things that they have to do, say it takes them 10 to 12 years.
Yeah, but the things, I think, I won't get into, so let me just pause a while. Some people are asking for a repeat of this program, and very informative. Good evening to Felix Thomas, and you're listening, of course. He wants to repeat a number of people.
I haven't seen that, comrade.
But the thing is, Dr. Henderson, as we're there, and we talk about leadership, patience, discipline. We went to France. When we went to France, The Prime Minister was there to handle it. They gave us this room, this, what you call the suite, and the bed, small. Right?
Well, that's French. That's French. That's a French hotel for you.
So I'm saying to myself, but the Prime Minister is a kind of tall guy.
Boy, I remember.
How this guy going like that? And so I'm saying, and to go to this place for 3 days, sitting down there, and people have to get an appreciation as to the commitment and
commitment, brother, commitment.
Hard work.
When I used to get on a plane in New York to go to Paris, and I had Ira magazine. Remember Ira, the former advisor of Clinton, President Clinton?
Yeah. You're a nice guy.
Right. Very brilliant fella. Brilliant. I mean, I learned so much from these guys. So Ira and I used to leave New York together with Dave Winstrop. And we had another another advisor who used to join us in addition to the legal guys. And we would leave New York, get to Paris at about 6 in the morning, go to the hotel, put down our bags, wash our face, and go to the meeting for 9 o'clock and negotiate until 4 or 5 o'clock. And we would do that for 2 straight days. And as soon as we're done, sometimes we leave the office where we're negotiating straight to the airport. And we did that for over a year. We just did several times, back and forth, and going through the grinds. But the point is, I wanted to really make about the challenges of developing geothermal in a small island state, the remoteness, the difficulties getting there, and Ray, boy, remember the war in Gaza was around the same time. Was around the same time, and I say thank God every day because some of the engineers were in Israel. All the equipment came straight from Haifa, from Port of Haifa, from Israel, from Ormat's factory in Israel. So we were fortunate to get to go through all these challenges because the logistics itself is a challenge in those projects, and we're able to pull this through. But the thing is, Dominica's been fortunate because we had the benefit of some of the best consultants in the world. And I say one of the best bets I made was to bring Fred John on this.
Yeah, Doc, I'm happy that you're saying that because the way some folks behave, like we're doing, I hear these guys, we hear all the time, we have not responded. But we need to respond, and that's why I'm happy that we're having the program tonight.
I know you've been always.
So I'm just saying, because you can't just sit as a government and stay quiet. And you have done all that work.
Well,
and then the fact of the matter is, and we had the best talent. And you talk about the Clinton Foundation.
That's right.
And the President Clinton came to Dominica, that itself is a story by itself, You understand? And then you had a situation whereby these folks were assisting us at no cost,
That's right.
And trying to mobilize.
No, we had the best advice.
Technical assistance.
We had the best legal, technical advice in the world.
And I think we need to provide that kind of information. So people get the impression or create the impression, that this government is just doing something.
But Ray, I started by telling you about the Geico.
I know.
Ray, let me tell you. Ask what you need to ask these people. Which independent state in the world has geothermal energy?
I know.
Which independent island, island state, island nation that has geothermal energy? So if you go across to Bouillard in Guadeloupe, you're in France. So Bouillard has been there for like 40 years. Yeah, but that's France.
Yeah.
That's in France. The Azores, but that's Portugal. If you can go, geez, that's my business. I know everywhere in the world where pretty much where there's geothermal power. And you will not find geothermal power on an independent sovereign island nation. Dominica is the first. So it's not just in the Caribbean. St. Lucia started developing geothermal in the 90s, They drill wells.
Yeah.
But the high sulfur content, they had to abandon that location. They want to retry. There were surface studies done in Grenada decades ago. As you said, Nevis drilled way before us.
Yes.
Nevis drilled before us, and they still yet to get there. Montserrat had 3 wells. Because I worked briefly with a consultancy on the Montserrat project. We're developing a proposal. We developed a proposal for that project as well. So some of those are Nevis. So I did some work with a French company called Albioma. I did some work with them on Montserrat, on Nevis, and on Grenada. I know these resources well. I know enough about this
Something else,
this place.
something else, Doc, and I think as we talk about how long it takes, you drill the wells, and it's always advisable that you allow some time to help you to put together the technical, report. You have to observe, etc., and all that help you to develop, proper, technical analysis. And I think all these things there, people outside from the action, not having an appreciation of what you have to do, so to get us to the point where we know at. And I think I wanted us, because the Americans say, if you don't give commendation to yourself, who will do it? Yes, you get present. No, the fact is, and I think that is a story that all of us should be proud of.
Yeah.
The other issue we had not spoken about before we get to the big thing.
Yeah.
No doubt. Now we have
where we are. Yeah.
Where we are now, and what it means for us as a nation. Now, one of the things that we need to actually put out there to see that this government has been working. You can recall we had done a case study.
Yeah, I remember.
No, we had done a case study.
Yeah.
And all that we done on a small plant.
Yeah, yeah.
All that we did all that work,
Yep.
Dr. Henderson.
We did a lot of work, and I mean it's been, the good thing about our project, we've benefited from so much analysis, so much advice, so much. I mean, we've so much has gone into this project that we're fortunate, and I mean I'm very excited that this is what we've ended up with. I mean, there are some things, and at the end of the day, boy, we all would like certain things, but the reality of life is the reality of life. You have to deal with what you have. But I'm anxious to come to the present day, because I also want to take my time to speak to what we've been going through since March of this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to begin by expressing, my apologies to the general public, to all consumers, for what what was created for the last few months with the instability of the grid and the occasional blackouts, outages of power, and I really want to apologize profusely for that. I will also say that let's take comfort in the fact that we're doing this at a time when we need it most.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I take some comfort in it as well, that the challenges that we're going through, so make sure we get it right, so that we don't get surprises down the road. And this has always been my fear. I've heard so many horror stories about geothermal projects that I'm so happy that we are taking our time to get it right. And the complexities of so let me just explain what I mean. I want to speak to this. Let me take my time. And Dominica is a very small island state. Our power demand is very small. Our grid is small. I mean, 20 megawatts can barely power a little street in a major city. So let's just get this. Let's get the context. Now, geothermal projects, as I said, we are one of the few islands with a geothermal project, and the only independent island state with a geothermal project. And what we've seen is, because our network is so small, the system is so small, it's very sensitive. It responds, to small changes. Because we, as I said earlier, our peak demand is 20 megawatts. Let's say 19, 20, let's just stop it up. 20 megawatts. We are saying that half of that power is being supplied by geothermal.
Mm-hmm.
Half. Now, you may find countries like Mexico, even New Zealand with such great geothermal potential, you may find that they have, it may be 20, 30%, 40. In the cases where it's bigger, they have several geothermal plants.
Mm-hmm.
We have one. And we have one central power, we have two main power supply of stations in Domlek, in Focul and Sugarloaf. But what has happened is that we brought in 10 megawatts on a system that still, had some of its own challenges.
Mm-hmm.
I have to give great credit to Domlek for the work, especially Dwayne, the Sinak, the manager, people like Daryl, and some great workers, technicians at Domlec who've done a lot of good work over the last several months. So what we had is we're bringing in geothermal into a system itself that needed some upgrades. I mean, admittedly, it's not a criticism; it's just factual. Because when we had the other companies, foreign companies owning Domlec, part of it was for them to make the kind of investments. I mean, if you go way back to even when UWP sold Domlec, that was the argument at the time. Those investments were done incrementally, but nothing major to transform that system into a modern system. It's still archaic in some ways and manual, and in the most part. So what we found is we had assets, generators that were already past their best days,
almost stranded.
Right, and we never had a proper transmission network. So we have we call it TND, transmission and distribution, but it's pretty much just a transmission, a distribution network that we've had with the highest voltage at 11,000 volts. So that's what we had. And bringing in now the geothermal plant, and let me take my time to explain this. The geothermal plant is designed in such a way. It's highly computerized. A lot of automation, a lot of remote stuff, controls and so forth. But it also is very sensitive. A geothermal plant is very sensitive and therefore has to be able to protect itself from any changes in the system that could possibly cause damage to it. So you don't want to have that problem. So what we found out is that with the Domlec power generation, the Domlec network with transmission, with distribution, we had the challenge. We have some challenges, but we were able to make the investments. And I spoke to you earlier about our struggle with the World Bank to get them to agree for us to do the project as we saw fit. But we're able to utilize the funds from the World Bank to do a new transmission network. So we've invested in first the 33,000 volts transmission network. Most part is done. We have power being transmitted from Loda, from the geothermal plant, where we have our transformers there from 11,000 to 33,000, going all the way underground to Fokole. And in Fokole we have another substation. Well, these things are called substations, where they take the 33,000, bring it down to 11,000, so that Domlec can distribute it throughout its network. So we made those investments. We've constructed so far the substation in Fokole. We are close to completion. By November, we should be done with the substations in Trafalgar and Padu, where we will be connecting the hydropower plants along that line. So we can take all the power from the valley into Fokole, all underground. That is already building resilience. But there's more to it. We are also investing in a 69,000 volt line that will be overhead from Loda all the way to Fokole. And that will give us redundancy. It will mean that if we have any problem on the underground line, we can use the overhead line. If we have problem with the overhead line, we can use the underground line. So we've built in redundancy, but also making room for expansion, future growth.
Yes.
So we've factored those things in. But once the power gets to Domlec, what we did several months ago as well is to insert within Domlec network a battery energy storage system, we normally refer to as a BESS. So that battery energy storage system is like people with solar power at their homes. It's basically a battery with your inverter controlling the power distributed and so forth. So we've invested in a 6 megawatt hour battery storage system in the Domlec grid, because when the design was done, we wanted to replace diesel so much because, again, let me take my time. Usually, before geothermal, before the battery, at Fokole, power would be generated from diesel. Power from the valley in hydro would come down as well and distributed. But there was always a diesel generator that was running, but not sending out power. It was just there like a standby, but not a standby like an off standby, an on standby. So that in the event that there was a failure of any other generator online, they would switch on that generator. So minimize the time of an outage. So that is what is called spinning reserves. We've replaced that generator that was burning diesel and not giving anybody power, but you had to pay for the diesel. You had to pay for it.
Right.
We replaced it with a battery, so that battery would come on if one unit fails. Initially, when we got the money from the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, I signed that agreement in just the day before 2 days before Hurricane Maria. Ian Douglas was the minister at the time. And I got that grant after having attended a meeting in Abu Dhabi when we signed up for the Caribbean Renewable Energy Facility. So Dominica was able to run quickly and get a $5 million, and we got that to invest in the battery storage. It was first 3 megawatt hours, but we were able to double it because we use Chinese technology, which is more efficient and cost effective. So we're able to get more power out from that system. So we have that 6 megawatt hour system, and that system would come on because it is the size of the biggest generator on the Domlec network now, which is a geothermal generator. So once that was connected, it was designed to take the power of one generator. Unfortunately, during the time of the commissioning, going through the process, when the entire network went down, the geothermal plant went down, because if there's a trip, if there's a signal that goes back to the geothermal plant, that would be dangerous for it. It has to shut itself down as a protection method. So some of what we've experienced over the last several months since we start commissioning in March, some of them have been to some faults on the Domlec network, admittedly. Some of them were as well the geothermal plant protecting itself and having to shut down. And when that happened, Domlec was not able to quickly enough come up with alternative power, and that is sometimes when we found ourselves out of power for a while. But so what we did, and the good thing here, we've been fortunate because we have owners engineers. So on the transmission side, we have Sofreco. They design and they've been supervising the work of the Indian company. So we have the Kaltaparu, KPI here as well from India doing the transmission network. We have Ormat, but we also have our owners engineers for the Ormat side. So we have ISO and HD from Iceland who are advising us, supervising, because I know at some point some people will say, well, maybe don't know what they're doing. No. We have some of the best people in the world working on this. But it's all of them, and that's why I want to take my time to really emphasize this. This is a small country doing a big thing. This is a huge thing for a small country. And what we're finding out is that all of the people with all their great experience, they've never had to deal with a situation like this. All of the factors that I mentioned. So the complexity of dealing with a situation like this is what caused us from time to time having to go back, reviewing, analyzing. But fortunately, we have some of the best people on this thing. Sometimes they have to go straight to head office to get some of their best, their supervisors or their more senior people to contribute to the discussion. And Fred John is always there, he and his team working. I'm happy with Dwayne Sinak and the work he and his team also are doing, and they're always involved in the process. So we've had to readjust some of the settings. And I mean, I don't want to sound too technical to lose our listeners. You know, I myself.
But I want to tell you that if you give me a minute, Dr. Henderson, is that
Sorry.
What, for example, Ali is saying that we need more shows like that. He's learning so much tonight. You understand? And Cynthia Andre is saying that should be replayed. It's very informative. So I mean, the people who are listening are learning a lot. They are learning a lot.
Yeah.
And I think this program we have on a Thursday night provides an avenue for people who want to listen and who want to learn. Because, as you rightly said, this is big stuff. You can recall the late great Prime Minister Rosie Douglas. He said he was not interested in fried fish and Johnny cake. Interested in big things. That's the international airport.
Right. So we're getting that one done.
Yes.
And you know, so it's a lot of pieces we have had to move. Mm-hmm. So there are a lot of readjustments being done, and you know, I have to be so grateful to the people we have working on this. And I have to add, Ray, another thing that perhaps people miss. I said it a few times, but I want to say it again tonight, and I hope people understand what I'm saying. So our geothermal plant, there are 28 employees. 26 of them are Dominicans. I'm talking about for the operations of the plant. I'm talking about the hundreds of Dominicans who are working during the construction. But currently, we have young graduates from the State College. We have technicians, engineers who worked with Domlec for several years, especially younger people, who are now employed at the geothermal plant. And they're the ones who operate in the plant. And I was so excited when I got there. As a matter of fact, when the wells were opened the first time, it was a youngster who opened the well for a Dominican. And they were teaching them throughout. They sent some of them to get training in Guatemala, I think it was, where they actually went to see the servicing of a plant and to get a better knowledge of how these things work. And I remember a few weeks ago, there was a team from Domlec that went to Brazil with KPI, the Indian company, to understand how they operate the transmission network, so that they can have more experience on this thing. So it's been a learning process for us, a lot of learning. And I really hope Fred will take his time and meticulously, I know, well, he's a meticulous guy, that he will take his time to chronicle, to document those things, because those things have to be shared. And I'm sure when Nevis gets online, they will need to have the benefit of some of the experiences that we've had, because this is not a thing that those guys would have encountered. They work all over the world in major systems, big systems, but the island experience, it's been new to them. It's almost novel in that sense. And there's a lot of learning. There's a lot of back and forth. So the last thing I will say on this is that we started the commissioning. So we'll come online sometimes and then we'll go offline. But we're on more times than you would think, because everybody knows when we're off. But we're on most of the times quietly. We're not shouting about it, because, again, sometimes it's better to do those work, to do that type of work quietly and try to get it right.
Yes.
And so we're doing this in the background, and a few times we got off. So it was about 3 weeks ago we started the reliability test once more, after having reset all the various sensitivities for the geothermal plant, because you have to make sure you set everything properly. The battery energy storage system, we had to reset that. The substations as well, we had to reset. We had to make sure we had the settings right. So we did that, and then we got online. We got online to do what is called the reliability test. The reliability test means steady power for 7 days uninterrupted at peak. And that is to say 10 megawatts is what the plant's supposed to be providing, although contractually it's 10.02, but the plant has been able to give 10.15 megawatts. So that it is really, really reliable in that sense. So we did that. We got interrupted, I think it was on maybe the fourth day, unfortunately. It was a Friday. We got interrupted because there was an incident on the Belfast feeder, and that sent the system off. Thank God it didn't last for very long. They restarted, and since then they've been able to achieve the 7 days uninterrupted. So that reliability test has been done. I received a report as recent as yesterday from Fred John, that essentially everything has been, well, they have evaluated all the relevant parameters, the temperature, the voltage coming out, the power coming out rather, and to ensure that everything is within the required specs. That pretty much we're getting ready to sign off on that, so that we can say within the next few days that commissioning is over, so that the plant will now be commissioned and we could start operating under the terms and conditions of the power purchase agreement with Domlec. So we're nearing that. Our target has moved a few times, admittedly, but the last time we reset, we gave ourselves July 31st, and it seems that we're are going to be able to achieve that July 31st date.
Yeah.
So that is exciting news for us, because we feel with a higher degree of confidence, because I said we've had a lot of back and forth. And I think for us, it's not only for us, I should say. When I say us, what I mean all of us in Dominica, Domlec included. It's been also a learning experience for Domlec. And I think those experiences we've had, as unfortunate as they've been, have given Domlec an opportunity to improve on some of its network, its system. And there are some, like I said, there are some great people in there. The guys know their stuff. They know their stuff, because whenever these things happen, you have to troubleshoot. I remember spending a few hours with them, watching them troubleshoot a problem, and I was very impressed with the approach that they use. And I think that is what has helped us to get to where we are today, because we have a lot of people who've been dedicated on this, and we're really focused on getting it right. And we have some improvements to make. Been in discussion with Fred John, with also the manager of Domlec, and one of the things that we're looking at is increasing the battery storage capacity on the Domlec grid. So if we can upscale it to at least 10, even 15 megawatts, it means we can better utilize geothermal, hydro, and to ensure that we can minimize diesel. Because even last night, even over the last few days, we've been utilizing about 1 megawatt of hydro because of the low rainfall. And they have now a better opportunity to manage the flow. Sorry.
Doctor, let's take a call.
Okay. I
good
don't want to
evening.
mess up your
Good
flow.
night.
Good night, gentlemen.
How are you doing?
I am there trying to die, but staying alive. I really preferred to just stay and listen. It's not that it's only impressive, but the information shows a high level of dedication, commitment, perseverance, and hope that can bring about results. Also, the detailed explanation and overview and review and information that is disseminated tonight by the Honorable Minister shows the level of work, the level of commitment, the hard work, so to speak, that have been involved, and the essence of not giving up, regardless of the challenges. I mean, I ask you all to not only a repeat, of the program by playing back, but I wish that the brother could come again, and as he did, because I think every single Dominican need to hear that. They need to hear that for themselves. And I want to commend you to Honorable Blackmoore. I don't know what that got into your mind to bring the Honorable Minister there, and your level of questioning and dialogue and discussion with him that helped him to bring out the level of information that is given. I want to compliment, both of you all guys, and that is the education that the people need.
Well,
because you have heard so many criticisms. We get a little blackout, and people want to criticize the whole program. Yeah. Look at the genesis of it. Look at the challenges that it has, and look at what we have today. Comrade, congratulations to both of you all. I'm listening.
Okay. Normally we don't wait the calls, but I just decided because so much stuff has been put out there, Doctor. So take that call. Yes.
But Ray,
yes, yeah.
I mean, the caller said something there, and that's why I'm still grateful to the Dominican public. I mean, we didn't hear the hue and cry. We heard the usual. I mean, nobody likes to lose power, especially the inconvenience it causes and everything. But I listened to some people and they realized it was towards a bigger purpose. When it was not just a blackout.
Okay, the lights are going off there,
sorry,
but I think we still have some more information to give.
Go ahead.
Good evening. You're live on the number one station, DBS Radio.
Yes, good evening.
Yes, good night. Yeah.
Mr. Henderson, and good evening, Mr. Blackmoore.
Good night. Good night, sir.
Yes, I've been listening from the beginning.
Yes, that's good.
And I'm hearing a whole bunch of money from different sources. Tell us, how much is the CBI playing in the financing of the geothermal?
Okay.
And Mr. Henderson, thanks for your service, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks for all the hard work.
Thank you.
And
Yes,
it takes hard work, dedication, and will, to get things done, make things happen. So
Yes.
thanks a lot.
One love.
I'm listening.
One love.
Yeah, Ray, I want to thank the caller for that, because I have to apologize. It was my fault, because when I mentioned the resources that we got, remember I mentioned the Prime Minister had committed 15 million. That was from CBI,
Yes.
and we got it over time. Acquisition of lands, etc. Just run in DGDC, and some of the contracting of consultants. That those amounts came from CBI. We'll have the full accounting.
Yes.
Once everything is done and signed off. But CBI has made a significant contribution towards our progress. And I also will take the opportunity to break down and to itemize the grant funding, because we did in fact receive a significant amount of grants. I saw people posting things when other countries would get a little grant and try to make a big deal at it, because I guess they are not keeping tune with what we have said. But we have been able to attract significant grant funding for this project to date.
Yes. Doc, as we're here, and in terms of we're at the point where geothermal energy is being transmitted through our grid.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely remarkable the way it is being done when you're talking about resilience, etc., and decarbonizing the grid, is not the grid itself. And I think that is something that we have to underscore. And the amount of money that the government has invested in the grid itself, and the efficiency that's going to follow thereafter, because the whole issue of line loss or something that was actually...
That's right.
Okay. So I think we need to make reference to that. It goes again to the whole idea of thinking deep, thinking not only for now, thinking for the future.
Yeah.
Let us take this call there, and then we'll come back to you, Doctor. Good evening. Okay.
So
Good night. Mrs. Call. Okay. Hi, good night. Good evening. Something is DB should do. Let's go, Doctor.
yeah, well, okay. So for the grid, we've invested so far. Well, we contracted a loan for $38 million US from the World Bank. We also were able to attract additional grant funding of about $4 million US, where there may be some.
Let's try.
Sorry.
Good evening. Hello.
Hey, good evening.
Good night. How are you doing? Hello.
How are you doing, my partner?
You're live on DBS.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah. Vince, great show tonight. I know like a couple of years ago you always talk about geothermal, but that's the first time you went down in depth talking about it. And that's really, I'm really, really so happy tonight. Vince, I hope our partner in the mountain, the one that want to put the windmill in the ocean, I hope he's listening tonight. Because he could learn one or two things tonight,
Yeah.
But Vince, I think, Mr. Blackmoore, I think you should really repeat it. But the kind of knowledge we're getting tonight about the geothermal and, it's really, really important. Let me just ask you a quick question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Vince, the question I was saying, what's the percentage of government? Because the other side, they always talk about what's the percentage of government own, and do you have outside investors? What's it like 60, 40, 30? I mean, what's the percentage of ownership I'm talking about?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are you finished,
Okay,
Scholar?
thanks, sir.
Yeah. So
Okay.
Yeah.
So Ray, I mean, we have made everything public. We have Ormat, Nevada came in as an investor, a developer. We own, so we're not a portion in ownership. What we did is that we invested in the wells. So we made that investment. That has a value. That has value. The infrastructure has value. The land. So we actually have that documented, but I don't think it's proper to state it as proportions. The plant itself, so the plant above ground, developed by Ormat, so they actually constructed and they invested their monies into that, $63 million US. They invested their monies into the plant, and we invested in the wells. So we actually own the resource, but they have the rights to have it developed and transmitted to Domlec, and supplied to Domlec, because we also own the transmission lines, because we are making the investment in the transmission lines. We own all of that. So that $40 million I talk about, that's ours. That belongs to the people of Dominica. The good thing about that, and Ray, you're making the point about the reducing line losses, but also gaining more efficiencies.
Right.
So overall, there's a benefit from having that transmission line instead of what we were used to at 11,000 kV. As a matter of fact, 11,000 kV would not be able to carry that load. So one of the points I want to make as well, we talk about $40 million. It sounds like a lot of money, but it's over a 40-year period, because that transmission line is going to be there for maybe another 40 years.
Precisely. Good evening. We're taking a call.
Comrade.
Yes.
Comrade.
Yes.
Comrade.
Yeah.
Very informative program. Well, let me start by saying one thing. Education, less stress. No education, more stress. And I'm brief. Why does it take the responsible parties to use the resources of the state to come on the air and enlighten and educate people on infrastructural development, especially when it pertains to failures like we're experiencing in Dominica? That should have been done. That should have been done ASAP. After 2 failures, get the minister on board, get your information, and come and inform. Number 2, I applaud the 2 persons before. What about how much money the CBI has invested? And that is the reason why people need to know. Because I'll tell you something. I listened to the CBI, the LACO program, where Mr. Green and the proprietor of Jungle Bay came and informed people about the CBI funding, how it was managed and what it was used for. And I can guarantee that there was less stress on the minds of Dominicans when these things happen. You need to inform, educate, so there will be less stress and less noise in Dominica. Thank you. Great program.
Okay.
Well, Ray, I know you're a proponent of that, but I just want to be clear. I thank the caller for that his contribution, and of course we need to inform. But I want to hasten to say that sometimes it's better to allow the technicians to explain technical things. I mean, I enjoy explaining them myself, but we've had several programs. Fred John was on recently. He and the manager of Domlec have been on. Domlec has, as the ones responsible for power, have gone through the lengths explaining what is happening. But I'm happy to be here tonight.
Good evening.
I'm using a voice assistant to convert your voice to text and respond to you.
Good evening.
If you want to continue, please stay.
Okay, whatever that is.
AI? We have AI too. But so we have been and we've given Domlec the opportunity to provide as much information to the public, and we did it jointly when we could, because they're the ones who control the grid. And we don't want to seem to be shifting blame and creating more confusion amongst ourselves. So I fought wisely, and Fred John supported that. As a matter of fact, advised that sometimes we need to allow. Because even the other day when there was an outage, I was anxious to go on, and I told him, get me all the notes that I need, call Domlec, find out everything. And he cautioned me. He cautioned me, and he said, you know what? Domlec is going to put out a statement. They will be doing some public discussion on this. Let's allow them to do their work. Because at the end of the day, it was a work in progress, and we've said that from the beginning, and the Prime Minister was very clear on that as well. We are going through commissioning, and there will be outages. And I don't think it doesn't hurt to have too much information out there. I get that, but sometimes let the technicians do their work. And I was happy to allow them to do that work. And until I feel that we've gotten to that space. Because I could have come every week and every day and every time something happens and give an explanation. And then soon people are going to be tired of hearing me and saying, I'm just talking and defending my government. But anyway, here we are. And I'm happy to be here.
But that's just part one of this program. And we're going to come back and to give other aspects of this project. But the fact is, you made reference of hydro and geothermal, and our energy mix. Now, how many megawatts are we? What was the quantum that we're now given by way of geothermal into the national grid.
We do 10 megawatts,
Okay, fine.
but based on the demand. So what I was advised again. Domlec is a system operator, and that's why sometimes it's better to let Domlec speak to certain things. But Domlec has taken its own internal decision to manage the power properly in the system and to make sure that it's stable. So hydro is the cheapest form of power on the grid. So hydro is always given priority. But because of the nature of hydro, obviously it depends on rainfall. What geothermal has done for Domlec is to allow them to also manage the use of hydro. So that is, they can curtail some of it and take in more geothermal. But there sometimes they have to mix it because they don't want to have too much geothermal on the grid in order to keep it stable. So again, Domlec is going for its own internal experiences to ensure that they can get that grid as stable as possible. So what we find is, so if you go down to Focally now, and I would venture a guess, if you go down to Focally now, I feel sorry for the people who live immediately next to the power plant because they must be going crazy. From hearing noise, trying to sleep, to not hearing anything. I know that may also be unbearable to them. But I pass there very often just to... I remember the first time the power was turned on and left on all night. I actually went... I left my home late in the night just to go and hear nothing at Focally. So they turn off the diesel generators once they have the full power from geothermal and it meets the demand as well as hydro.
Okay. We're taking this call. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Henderson.
Hi, good evening.
How are you?
Very well, thank you. And you?
Nice hearing your voice.
Same here. Nice hearing yours.
Bye.
Oh, that's a good night. Yeah.
Okay, well,
okay,
that was a nice good night.
That's a good night. Yeah.
So Ray, so sometimes like yesterday when I called, I think last night when I experienced, it was after 7 and the diesel generators were on. So they told me they had 8 geothermal, 1 hydro, and they were running 1 diesel for the time and the 2 in Sugarloaf. What they hope to achieve really is to have a combination of hydro and geothermal in the south, and to minimize, diesel as well in the north.
No,
because some of the power from the south reaches to the north.
Because somebody on DBS Radio's Facebook page asked whether the whole country is going to benefit. And certainly yes. But
Yes.
But the thing is, Vince, if you were to have a situation whereby, because from what I was told that, and Dominic at some point will have to make that known to the public, and will be invited on this program. That by the month of April, the intention was to have had like 9 megawatts. Based on what on the technical audit that they were doing, they would have been in a position in April to have taken 9. So hydro at its highest point is about how many? 7.5, something like that.
Well, no, it's 6.4, but they normally you would get about 4. So again, water level.
Yeah. All of it's water level.
So right now they might be up to 2, so 2.5. What the good thing is, I remember in the early days when we were trying to configure this plant, we were told that Domlec couldn't take more than 5 megawatts. We moved from 5 to 7. Even 7 was risky. When we got to 10, we were a bit nervous and we were trying to see what else we could do with the power, because we could not distribute the power throughout the entire country at full capacity. In other words, to take the power from Focally to the north all the way, we need to invest in new transmission as well. So we have to get new transmission lines. But what happens, some of the power from Focally will reach down on the coast, so that it will also be distributed, albeit not at the capacity that you would like it to. And they have to curtail sometimes based on the time of day, because for example, nighttime, when there's a lower demand for power, they have to curtail some of the power that they produce. And in the daytime, when the demand becomes so high, then they have to turn on some diesel generation. But what we've seen is a significant reduction, more than 50%, in fuel surcharge in terms of usage, of fuel usage, and hence will translate into a reduction in fuel surcharge, because we will not be using as much diesel. And
then therefore, there will be a consequential drop on the light bills
That's
of,
right.
of the ordinary
That's
folks.
right.
And that's ultimately what the people want to
That's
hear
right.
to. And then we can talk to the bigger thing and how do you create an environment for energy intensive industries, etc., to grow the economy.
That's right.
Okay, let's see if we can get this call. Good evening.
Yes, I'm calling back.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I'm just curious. The coal super in the north, would that be a site for geothermal? Because it says coal super, that's in the Pennsylvania. The water is cold, bubbles cold. Would that be a suitable area for geothermal? I'm just curious. I know Mr. Vince has done any research in this area.
Yeah.
I'm listening. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Well, the government has done some surface studies in the north. There is potential in the north, but if I have to speak strictly as an advisor, it is better to utilize and get it right in the south before venturing in the north, because you saw the challenges that we've had, which is what I was trying to caution people against, because I know this wasn't going to be easy. We're getting it right. We still have a ways to go, because as I said, we have about 20 megawatts of steam in the Roseau Valley, in Loda in particular. Let me be more specific. What we will be doing over the next few months is studying that reservoir even more. Watch the behavior of the reservoir under pressure in actual production of 10 megawatts. And that way we can tell if we can easily add another 5 megawatts to that system. Mm-hmm. So no more drilling, just being able to construct a new plant, another 5 megawatt turbine to be added to the system, and to ensure that we can now have enough power to supply the entire country. That will also require some investment in transmission to the north. Mm-hmm. The question is, do you develop power in the north, or do you do the transmission? In any case, it is wiser to do the transmission, because it gives you more resilience, redundancy, even if you were to build a plant in the north. Now, building a plant in the north, there are people who think that they can do it in 2 or 3 years, and more power to them. I wish them well. But the fact is, these things take time. And if as you've seen, and one of the things I wanted to highlight before we part is that I have to thank the people of Loda and the Roseau Valley in general. But what Loda people they've been very understanding. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that we've been able to do is have them constantly engaged. Mm-hmm. Everybody up there is an expert in geothermal. They've had so many meetings and they've participated so actively that they understand what we're doing. And if you go into anywhere else in Dominica, the North especially, we're going to have the same kind of consultations, the ESIA, the Environmental and Social Impact Assessment, which take time. And under World Bank standards, under the IFC standards, you're going to have to take time to get comments and to respond to comments and to do a lot of the intricacies that are required to have a bankable project. And that is where the challenge is. So we have an easy one. There is already a project in the south. We have the potential to expand that facility. What we should be focused on is how do we expand the Roseau Valley? How do we expand Loda in such a way that, as you said, Ray, we can start talking about energy-intensive industries. We can start creating new opportunities for Dominicans, creating employment, generating the kind of economic activity that will bring more benefit. A bigger plant means also you can reduce the unit cost and therefore a further benefit to consumers. So there are a number of things that you can do with Loda that can ensure that we have enough power to supply the entire country and to help to create new industries. We start talking about shore power, providing power to ships, especially cruise ships that come to our shores. We can start talking about the production of ammonia, if that is a viable proposition. It's something we've been looking at. We've been exploring those things. But there are things we can do using the resource in Loda, because we have proven it. The valley has been proven. Drilling has taken place. We know what is there. There's no guesswork anymore. We just have to study the resource now and see how it behaves, so that by the end of the year, Ahmad can tell us, well, hey, this is what we're looking at. This is the behavior of that resource. And this is our advice moving forward. And that is what I'm looking forward to, so that by the end of the year, we can start talking about the next phase of geothermal energy development in Dominica, to ensure that we can help to reduce the cost of electricity further, create new opportunities, generate economic activities, and to ensure that we can provide more opportunities for our people.
I wanted to make a short intervention there, but I'll take this call. Good evening. You're live on DBS Radio. Hello.
Good evening. Yeah, good evening. What's going on?
I'm fine. Yes.
Hey, Vince, what's up, man?
Hey, cool, bro, cool.
Alright. I've been locked into the program.
Oh,
That's like, is that Mervyn Paul?
boy, your man deadly, boy. Where? Okay, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I've been locked into the program from the very beginning, and I've been saying these are the type of discussions that need to engage the minds of our people because of the significance and the potential impact of this type of development. And I know everybody is intrigued by the details. I was too, because there's so much to learn. But I just want to say that people must not seek to minimize the kind of work that has been put in by you, Vince. I mean, the level of diligence, and there's a word that I can use to describe you as it relates to this project, and that is tenacity. Because just listening to the amount of hurdles that were encountered from the very inception, the conception of the program, to today seeing it becoming a reality, one has to admire your tenacity and your resilience and that of the government to stick with it for as long as you did and to see it become a reality. And I remember I used to always say, when this thing gets off the ground, this thing has the potential to make Dominica become the United Arab Emirates of the Caribbean. And today we're hearing other Caribbean countries talking about potentially looking. Dominica is saying we have. And so I just want to be on the correct side of history by saying that I too really I'm thrilled by that prospect, and I believe Dominica has not yet truly grasped the importance and the potential impact that this thing is going to have on its economic landscape. And the government has to be highly commended for this type of project. And understanding Dominica's topography, the kind of things that had to go through to bring all this equipment up there, and to have stuck with it through thick and thin. There was natural disaster, there was man-made disaster, there was criticism. So I believe, we cannot underplay or minimize the work that has been put in, the resources, the research. And I tell you, Vince, you have to be highly commended. I know you're a very humble and modest person, but you have to be highly commended, and all the persons who have been involved, the Prime Minister and his vision to stick with it, even in the face of challenges. And people thought, well, why don't you let that go and focus on something else? And here we are today. You made the point earlier on, Vince, you glossed over it. What is happening now in the Middle East and in the Strait of Hormuz sort of illuminates the importance of Dominica sticking with that program, because it is going to redound to the benefit of people in the face of this global challenge. So I believe it is something the government must receive with tremendous praise for. You, Vince, in particular, must be singled out. And I believe all the other ministers and all the other people who are involved in it, I believe this is something that must continue to be put up front, where people can begin to appreciate more the impact of this great and masterful development that will potentially change Dominica's economic face for generations to come. But good seeing you, my brother.
Yes, thank you. Ray,
Yeah.
Can I just say something fast? Because I have to say, this caller, Mervyn Paul, I can call your name, right? Mervyn Paul has been, was one of the people who encouraged me, cheered me on, and gave me the courage to continue this. Remember those programs we used to have, boy?
Absolutely.
And I know plenty, man, at Vex, we taking so much airtime talking about geothermal, because, the truth is, I don't blame people. People didn't think this was going to happen. They felt that was too complex. They had too much story, too much try, too much failure, too much things. And you never gave up. I always say that about you and Daryl did. I remember our late program, man, and your little track you used to play there, man. One people, man.
That's right.
But thanks for calling. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, man, bless the guy.
Okay, fine, cool, wonderful. Yeah, fine. Yes, Vince.
Yeah.
Going back to the people of Loda, me too want to put on the record my commendation. I can recall going to Loda with Dr. Colin McIntyre, and when people made a hoopla out of it and said that we're going to burn down the valley. You can recall that? We're going to burn down the valley, and etc., and what we're doing to the environment. And one thing we have not made mention tonight that the deliberate attempt that has been made and is being made to ensure that the environment is preserved, that the two can coexist. And with the plan that we have is not an open system, it's a binary one, it's closed. And I think that's something, I mean, you may want to just shed some light on before, because it's 19 past 10.
Yeah, you gotta go. But you know, Ray, I have to thank the residents of the valley. You see, and that's been a lesson. And when I go out there and I speak about our experience in geothermal, I was so happy that the last time in Mexico City, earlier this year, they asked a specific question about community. How do you deal with the community? And I was happy to respond to that because I know the experience we had, or the experiences we had in Loda in particular. And I remember my good friend, who is now who has been a long-standing employee of DGDC, Gary Shillingford. And remember the resistance that came up. But we listened to the people. We engaged them. We even brought them to Bouillante, you remember? And I had to run down from New York one year. I remember there was a time when people were threatening to stop this thing. And we met. We engaged. But you know what I've learned too, and I never fool myself in believing that even if you explain everything, you are as transparent as day and you show all the information, that everybody will come to your side. I have no illusions of that, because there'll always be rubber rousers. There's always people who don't want anything good for the country. But I'll tell you this, just because of who is in office at the time. But I'll tell you this though, this is one achievement for Dominica that we can be proud of, every one of us, because we have, admittedly, we have not been first in a lot of things. But we can say this is something that we've done well. Not just being first in it, but we've done well. And we can lead the way. We can teach. We can share. We can speak of our experiences. And it's catching people's attention. I have to tell you, Ray, I know sometimes you like to give man talk about traveling, but Ray, I don't duck them thing, you know.
What I tell you about travel?
They're among the requests I get in. Because right now everybody wants to hear about Dominica. I couldn't even make it to Calgary the other day. Fred had to go. I mean, there are so many. Dominican Republic, there's a big meeting coming on next month that they've anxiously tried to get me to be part of that. I have gotten a request again for Panama City. I mean, there are people, they want to hear, but how were you able to do that? I can tell you, I used to go to meetings. And fellas used to laugh me, fellas checking, boy, where are you going with that thing? I remember when I went to Mexico City in February, the organizer of that event, we've been having this for the last 10 years. He stopped me and he reminded me, tell me, boy, I remember the days when you're the only one in all of the Caribbean and Latin America talking about geothermal. You're the only one. Wow. And honestly, I had my doubts because I know this thing was difficult, expensive, complicated. And you were able to pull it through. And that's why every time this guy is having an event, he has to find me. If his staff cannot get a confirmation from my staff, he calls me personally to plead with me, even if it's just for the day, even if it's just for that hour. You can just come and share with us. I mean, obviously, I'm a troublesome fella too, so they like the little action. Them things that be boring, so they like me to come there and make a little noise. But anyway, it's a Dominican experience. And I'm saying this because I want us to embrace this as our project. And stop trying to look for things that are wrong. Like the other day, I got a video from some colleagues. I forgot to tell you that, right? Showing some steam coming out. But this is what the thing is about. It's steam. And then they started this rumor that there was a pipe that was broken. So what happened is, when that was the same Friday, there was the outage because of the feeder in Belfast or somewhere thereabouts. So when that happened, the system must shut. The system shuts itself down, right? And when that happens, the pressure that's in there has to come out. So the steam must come out. Yeah. So whenever the plant is not on and running, then the steam comes out to ease up the pressure. So people saw this and they made the connection. Power outage, steam coming out, something happened. The thing mash up. Let us not look for something wrong. This is ours. It is not Scary Tone, it's not Vince owned, it's not Labour Party owned. This is the Dominica People's Project. We've toiled on this. We've used public resources for this. We've tried our best to explain throughout the process and to bring people along with us. We try not to run ahead of them. Even when we had to do the redesign, we had to go back. The community actually told us they didn't want us to put the well where we got the best advice to put it. We had to go back to the consultants. They had to redesign, and eventually we got it to a place that the community was satisfied with. We worked with the people. So this is for us.
Yes.
And think about it. Mervyn made the point. Mervyn Paul made the point that now with what's going on in the world, with the fuel prices going back up, and they're back now to $100 a barrel, that increase there is not going to affect us as much as if we had not had the geothermal. And there will be more occasions within the next 50 years, which is the life of that plant, that we will have those kinds of shocks in fuel prices. So we are insulating ourselves from that. What we need to do as a country is to be determined together that we have to fully utilize this resource for the benefit of the people of Dominica. And that is where I would like to see us get. I know there are people who are still trying to find fault with the plant. We've still been very transparent. I know Fred entertained a group of them a couple of days ago, looking for things that are wrong, trying to and there are those who also listen, and I was happy that Fred was able to entertain them and to explain to them and provide as much information and to be as transparent as we can with them so that they fully understand. But I know there are some, no matter what you say, no matter what you show, who will still be determined to try to create some confusion. We are prepared. I am prepared. I'm free. I would love to meet with them. And if they want to engage me publicly, I'm prepared to do that even. I just would not submit myself to a circus. And especially with people that seem to ply a living by fabricating stuff and getting off on some of those things. I may want to excuse myself, but if we having some people who want to have a decent conversation around geothermal, I am prepared to do that. So I put my caveat. So you heard that too. I hope those of you listening, I didn't say I'm ready to sit down and talk to anybody. I'm ready to make debate. I'm not in that. But but if people have genuine concerns and people would wish to engage us, we're prepared to do that.
Yes. What a wonderful program, but everything that's good at some point has to end. And so we'll be back again, and of course Dominic will be provided with an opportunity to give its side of the story, which I think is needed. And Dr. Henderson will be back to give further details and talk about the spending,
of course,
etc., etc. And we are at a moment of vindication.
Yeah.
And the period of doubt has been overcome by a moment of vindication, where we are now seeing the fruits of our toil. I say as you said, it's a national endeavor. Those were not part of that endeavor, but so be it. But I'm very pleased that you are still. Okay, I call her. Good evening. Hi. Good night.
Good evening.
Yes.
Just a quick call.
Yeah, Doctor. Yes, quickly.
Done?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, good evening.
Hey,
Yes,
Doc.
yeah.
Hey, what's up? Hey, man.
It's like a university, man.
Yeah.
You can remember all the names and even,
Yeah.
I just called to give you flowers because I see you persevered, you took this project and you just carried it on your shoulder. I listened there and I'm so impressed, man. You got to understand the process, you start a project and you just hang in there. Now, as Blackmoore say, vindication time is being produced. Electricity is being generated. Whatever issues, we'll release it as we go.
That's right.
But the most important thing is electricity flowing through the line and seeing the impact on people's bills. So I would venture to say that they should put your name on that plan, but somebody else do that.
I alive still, man. Yeah, thanks.
Vibes,
But thanks, bro. Thanks.
Good evening. Ray, take care.
One love, Doc.
So Ray, I think we're going on a line there that I'm happy. We have had so many people to thank on this journey, and again I want to express my thanks to my predecessors in office. And I remember, as I mentioned, Charles Savre was at the time His Excellency now. He was Minister at one point. You served as minister for a significant portion of that time, especially during my days when I was in New York. Well, I forgot to start with Reggie. Reggie Ostry is the first one, and you played a great role. We were actively engaged in a number of things, and Ian Douglas came on, and we again worked with him, and we've pushed it through ever since. And I want to thank all of those, of course, under the leadership of the Prime Minister, who's always been steadfast in his support to geothermal energy. And even when I did my research, I remember when I did my doctoral thesis, one of the things that I found out in the research that I did.
Well, apparently, Doc, people don't want us to go to bed tonight, but I have to move in a while.
Okay.
Good evening, good night. Hello? Hello?
Can you hear me?
You're alive. Good
Yes,
night.
yes.
All right. Great show.
Yeah.
Great show. What a wonderful show.
Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
He's having some problems.
Hello?
Yes, hello?
Good night.
Hello?
Yeah. Good night.
Good night. Good night to you. Good night to you. How are we doing?
Okay, we have two callers on there.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I just got to call and compliment you guys and give you guys just a tremendous, congratulations. I mean, I think history is going to prove you guys as were the giants of innovation in Dominica. The investment that you guys have done, and I mean, all the criticisms and all the naysayers. I mean, you guys recently had the first brain surgery operation in Dominica. Now, I mean, energy is one of the, we're going through a crisis now. And for Dominica at this time in our history to be able to afford to produce geothermal energy for its citizens, I mean, what bigger statement can you make? Again, I'm going to congratulate this government and guys like Vince. I think this guy is a man that anytime you talk about resiliency and steadfastness and a man that's focused, this guy is going to be one of the guys that you're going to look to, because that geothermal achievement is nothing soft. Because I know he got a lot of blows with the amount of money that they were spending and all the nonsense that people were talking. But, thanks for the information you brought in tonight. Thanks about talking about the failures and the successes. And I'm just so happy and just so grateful for young, innovative guys like you, that you guys were able to take Dominica on the other level. So kudos to you guys. And I hope that guys will start looking at you guys on a different level.
Thank you.
And giving you the respect. And for you to spend all this money in R&D and then still turn around immediately and should give Dominicans a reduction in their electricity or in their energy, I mean, it's just a tremendous benefit for Dominicans that you guys were able to pull that off, man. I can't compliment you guys enough. Thank you so much for what you guys do.
One love.
Peace and blessings.
One love.
Thank you.
The thing is, Doc, has just to just give some currency to what the caller just said. Those kind of projects, of course, need time. Government need time in office to do that, and that is why no other government could have done it, because they lack the discipline, the resilience, and the ability to mobilize the requisite resources. Okay, do you have a next caller? Hello? Hello, good night. Yes. Okay.
But Ray, I think the caller made a point there and had me again part of the things that I wanted to share.
We have to go to bed tonight,
Yeah, very
good evening.
Yes, good evening to you, Mr. Blackmoore. Good evening to you, Dr. Henry.
Mr. Blackmoore, we share the same office and all the time. The late Prime Minister go to bed. He said, but if you want to go to bed yourself, who the hell are you talking to? Rosie. How are you doing? Good night.
Good.
Manuel.
Yes.
It's full of what, Vince?
Those what it is, man.
That's our joke.
That's what it is.
Good, man. Yeah, man. So I'm listening to the program. I mean, I must say hats off to Vince and being steadfast and and not giving up at all, I think it's a tremendous achievement by the Dominican Labour Party. I mean, and Vince mentioned that he's the one carrying the baton now. He gave kudos to people who were there before him, people like Charles Savage, Osprey. I mean, on a previous program, I heard him talk of guys like Washburn and the other fellow was with him, But what we even recall, Nanju Creole was talking about
that was my partner,
that was passed by Labour way back in the year. So today I had the opportunity to speak to a guy who has been in the media very often. I told him I am the president of the Dominican Labour Party. I told him that the Labour Party is not a Labour Party, it's not Scary Labour Party. I said, Scary is the one carrying the torch now. But this organization is 71 years old. And it's a party that believes in certain core principles, core value. And Vince is saying here that, today he carried the torch that was started, that was first lit, 50 years ago, Vince, when you were born?
Yeah. 1969,
Yeah, and bring it to the torch of Labour started on Empire Day a long time ago, 71 years ago. Right. But the act for geothermal was passed about 50 years ago.
1974. 1974.
Exactly. So that's 52 years ago. And Vince carried it on there. So young people came on and carried the torch and pursued the same vision, the same goal, the same identity, the same objective of trying to work for the betterment of our people. And I was tempted to talk to tell the man who I spoke to before, who has been saying many things about the government and Labour, that unfortunately he did not grow up in the circumstances, and he would not understand the circumstances that we grew up in. So he did not grow up knowing that there was no water and that there was a pit latrine, So we wouldn't be perfect in everything that we do. We would understand and agree on every single thing that we do. But the core values, the core principles continue. And I am very happy that Vince was able to be strong, to be resilient, to be steadfast. And today we see we have geothermal. And it's not just geothermal for now. My friend Rosie would say we have to look at how we would leapfrog into the next generation. And I right now I was discussing with some young men the other day from Tukari and Tatan, who working with the experts from overseas, plotting the geothermal resource of Dominica. So they're actually plotting where we have, what we have, and the value. I mean, I had the opportunity to attend a sitting at Intercontinental. That was about 2 months ago, Vince.
Yeah.
And we had people from many different organizations, the World Bank, the Caribbean Development Bank. We had people from Toshiba out of Japan. We had people from Trinidad who were looking at buying green ammonia. And they're saying, you know what, there are lots of things that Dominica can produce with what we have seen so far. And we're very excited so far with what we have seen. The other day I was listening to Darwin Telemark talking about the cruise ships and clean energy for the cruise ships and how the geothermal plant can be utilized to provide those, And somebody was saying, you know what, but the airplanes that will be coming here on long haul too, they too would be able to take energies from that. And even looking at the presentation that was done at Intercontinental when I was there 2 months ago, they were saying, one of the president was saying, from what they have seen, they think Vince said he wants to ensure that we continue up in the southern as well. And I agree that we need to ensure that we maximize what we have in the Rosa Valley. It is a tremendous resource that is doing very well. But we're hoping that the fact that we took all the time that we had, we have learned it now, and that we're hoping that we can repeat, because we have lived the thing before. We have gone through all the years of research, of trials, of errors, of technicals, and so on. And now, from what was presented at Intercontinental, the guy was saying that they think that they could get up to 200 megawatts in the foot of Diablote, up in the north. So we say that Martinique Guadeloupe is just north of Dominica. Martinique is just south of Dominica. My friend Nasus Kitoridis in Cyprus was selling electricity on the cable to Israel from Cyprus. So we're saying that there are so many opportunities that are there. The government has done a tremendous job in developing infrastructure for sustainable growth and development with money coming from the CBI. We did all the hotels that we did. The marina is opening just now. The cable car is there. The airport is there. There are challenges. We're not sure what will happen. And let me just make it clear that CBI, even access to the European Union came in 2015. If my memory serves me right, it was about May 2015. I mean, Dominicans even forget that we didn't have that all the time. So it was with no spirit, and it's technical thing. I think Vince was Minister for Affairs at the time, or who helped us to negotiate and bring in visa-free access to the EU in 2015. And Vince would recall very much that we had about 70-something countries that we had visa-free access to. Yeah. We increased that from 70-something to 146 thereabout, and people forget that. Or people don't even take note of that. But if you lose the 10 out of the 80 that you brought, then we're in problems. Or they say the program will fall because Union Charles put the program of CBI in March of 1993. We get access, so we have CBI from March of 1993 till May of 2015. So I'm just saying, making the point that the government invested a lot in doing things, putting down the foundation, and maybe the opportunity might be now that we take the energies that we have and go to the next phase of transformation. But where we go, or how far we go, how high we go, is dependent on the hundreds, if not thousands, of young Dominicans who we sent out to study. Because Queen Elizabeth and whatever sent out Columbus and Amerigo Vespucci and so on. But today we send our young people to universities to learn and to see and look and to create opportunities. The goal now, the real goal is between the ears, the brain and the mind. And Labour has invested tremendously in young people of Dominica, so that when we want to look at what Rose was saying, leapfrog, then the sky is the limit, because the knowledge that we put in the heads of the young Dominicans is what will take us to where we want to go. Gentlemen, again, thank you very much for a wonderful program. Thank you very much for all your work and effort. Thank you very much for the goodness and the vision of Labour. Thanks and have a good night.
One love, comrade, of course. Thank you. I mean, of course, Nanton, so many things can be said about. I got to know in 2000, and Vince, you can recall, and sharing the same, our office were next to each other's office. And thank you for your intervention here tonight. But people are saying about this program have been so instructive, etc. But we have not spoken about half of the struggles, Vince. That's not tonight. I have not spoken, and I really want to again, because ultimately the Prime Minister is the Prime Minister, and you can recall, like even when I was the Minister, Vince, and at one that deal fell through with the French, understand, and then a number of folks were actually trying to influence the Prime Minister to forget about Joe Firmalino. Vince, you can recall that? And then it has proved to that the leadership, discipline, and to sticking to the assignment and understanding your role and understanding that you're doing it for the people, and whatever you do will not be tested for today's reality, but for those to follow tomorrow. And that's ultimately what our vocation ought to be, to create a better land for those to inherit thereafter. And when the history of Dominica will be finally rewritten, and the work that you have done, and this administration and the people of Dominica will be on the cover page. And I'm not sure people want us to go to bed tonight, but we have to really go. And maybe that's our last call. Maybe. Good night. Good evening.
Minister of Homeland Security, good evening to you.
Homeland Security, that's a big ass money man. Good evening.
Why, Mr.
Dr. Vicente, good evening to you.
Good evening.
I'm just calling to say, Honorable Vincent, so thank you very much. This was your baby, the this project was get to you, and it was, it now Dominica is reaping the fruit of your hard labor. Job well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And you all try safe home and have a good night.
One love, man. Good night.
Barry, I appreciate all the callers, but I'm very sad that I didn't hear from one of my staunchest supporters after Nan-Ducre, the late, who always made an effort to call me when I'm ever talking about geothermal energy and remind me of the struggles in his early days when he was Minister of Industry.
Yeah.
But the second staunchest supporter always asked me about geothermal. Mommy, man, I can't do that. No, man, I can't. I'm not feeling complete tonight. I didn't hear from Mommy always called.
She might call,
and supported our efforts. So I just want to thank her, publicly for that encouragement. She has no idea how much that meant to me. That just she, at her age and, just out of interest and knowing that she's feeling that it was something good we were trying to pursue, and she always called to support, and I thank her for that.
One thing, Vince, as we did, we spoke about Alexis and Frank. Not Frank. Frank was his brother. Mark. Not Mark.
Fred.
Yeah,
Mark taught me.
Brothers. Frank was my personal friend.
Yeah.
But when we had this unit within the Ministry of Public Works at the time, this guy, Fedel, can you call him?
Yeah, Michael Fedel.
Michael Fedel did something. He worked with Mr. Sullivan at the time.
Yes.
And then so a number of people were involved, and then part of the process.
We have Rollins Bruni now,
Right.
Former
And
manager
Mr. Bruni, right, all these folks.
Brilliant engineer.
So it just tells you it's for us. Mm-hmm. But again, Vince, my commendation to you again.
Yeah,
and I'm seeing maybe my colleague is calling me on my cell phone on the Douglas. I'll have to connect.
but I'll tell you though, Ray. I was just saying closing though that we have to come to appreciate the critical role of energy in a country's development. No country can develop without energy.
You need energy for everything.
No country can develop without reliable supply of energy. Mm-hmm. And what we're doing, and that's why I'm convinced that energy ought to be considered as a public good. Mm-hmm. And I see the role of government in investing in energy infrastructure as we do roads and bridges. We have to invest in energy infrastructure. And I want to say, I am so excited that I serve in a government that saw the need to make those investments. Mm-hmm. And when I write and when I speak internationally, I will highlight those as real cases where we invested significantly in energy, because it is that, especially now at an age of AI. If you're talking about information communication and technology, talking about in an age of AI, we will need to ensure that we have reliable energy powering our industries, powering our daily lives, and to ensure that we can improve the lives of all people. And any investment in energy is an investment well done, well deserved for the benefit of the people's development. And I'm very happy that we're pursuing that line. I will say too that I am all for moving forward in big ideas and getting stuff done. But one of the lessons that I've learned, you have to take your time and appreciate the little things, because the complexities of some of those things can be lost through enthusiasm.
Yes.
And you have to be sober-minded, determined, and realistic.
We must take a call. I suspect it's a big man calling there. Good evening.
Hello, good evening. How are you?
Oui. That's our Blackmoore, man.
It's Dr. Nelson. I want to call and talk to you.
Somebody tell I call your name, man.
You're live on the radio tonight. No. You're live on national radio, so I'm just reminding you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Thanks for reminding me, Mr. Blackmoore.
Yes. One love. Yeah.
But Dr. Nelson, Dominica needs you. You can't go nowhere. That's why I called to tell you.
I'm here, brother. I'm here.
My brother, Dominic, I need you. After that geothermal thing there, we have things to do, my brother.
Yeah. Lots of stuff to do. I'm here,
and
brother.
you are one of the greatest sons of the soil, my brother.
Yes, sir.
So we have to continue the work.
Yes.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for the motivation. You've always motivated me.
Yes.
Have your commitment.
Yes, man. Yeah, man. You remember you first I called you when I said I was coming down, you know.
Right.
We go way back, you know.
You on your way to Holland.
Yeah, we go way back. We go back before Blackmoore. Remember we were Boy Scouts together, you know. Long time.
Right. And I don't want to lose you. Doctor.
All right.
So give me the commitment here and now that we will still be there.
I'm here, man. I'm here. It's been nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll talk about boss man, one love man, hold strong.
Yeah. Real soul there.
I'm Blackmoore. Doctor, listen, talk to me, please.
Okay.
Doctor, listen, talk to me.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here, man. Yeah, no, I'm here, brother. I'm here.
Okay.
I'm committed to the cause, and I will continue to make that contribution. You know that. I'm a loyal soldier, a real scout.
I can go and sleep now. That's all I want to hear.
All right. Thanks, man.
That's all I want to hear, Doc.
All right, thanks. Okay.
Thank you.
Right.
Great job.
Man. Thanks.
Great job, Doc. Yeah, right. And you know.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I know you may be an unsung hero and you may be feeling an unsung hero, but yeah.
All right. Thank you.
One love boss man. One love.
Man,
yes. Doc, what a wonderful program. And maybe next month or so we're going to be back. I'm going to invite. We're going to have Domlek to give their side of the story.
Actually, we're planning a discussion with Domlek. Well, actually, Dion set it up, and we're hoping to have that engagement. So,
hello, good evening.
Good evening, Honorable Blackmoore, Honorable.
Yes, Dr. Mills, yeah.
Hey, countryman, how you doing, man?
Well, I am very happy now. I'm very happy now. I know your fingers will cross all the while. So,
yes, I told you. Yeah, thank you.
So congratulations for all the hard work. I know you come to the end of the program, and this program was so informative. I hope I can really get to replay that tomorrow morning because it's very, very, very informative.
Thank you.
People who didn't already hear it tonight need to hear it soon.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyway, I have to get in touch with you too.
Yes. We'll do that.
After you visit. Yeah.
Okay. All the best.
All right.
Thank you.
One love, soul day, one love. Take it easy. Good night. Right. Yes, Doc. I know I can't keep you any longer.
Yeah.
But we have to drive in the same direction. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, I'm thank you for the opportunity. I know we've been discussing this for a while. I'm very happy we're able to do it, and because I like to take the opportunity to explain and to inform the public. So for me, it's always a pleasure.
Hello, that's our final call.
But I say that my big my final call I want to be the final.
Oui, mama, gaso. Gaso Blackmoore put you february. Gaso Blackmoore.
I saw your number there. I saw that number there.
Why you hold me, boy?
I say, let me be listening because the whole night I call. I just listening to eloquent, articulating voice. But you know, easy, but you're encyclopedia, man.
Thanks, man.
Anyway, bro, I just want to thank you for what you have continued to do for the country and for the people. I mean, you save with distinction or continue to save with distinction. Boy, let me tell you something. If we lose you, we lose a big one. And so, even if probably you on the long run or soon take a decision probably to move away from active politics, but we continue to save the country. Because
thank you.
You know, trust me. And the country needs you. The country still needs you. Trust me. So all in all, hold strong, bro, and continue to do it.
Thank you.
Nice.
Good evening. Okay.
I'll use the opportunity to say good night to my constituents. All the lovely people of Grand Bay, Grand Colibri, Martin, Tetman, I want to say thank you for the trust you've placed in me and for your continued support and giving me the opportunity to do what I have been able to focus on for Dominica. I know sometimes it can be not easy, but I thank you for at least giving me the opportunity to serve and to be of service to Dominica. So I'll always be grateful to the good people of the Grand Bay constituency for that opportunity.
Okay, Mrs. Savron is saying good evening. Wonderful program. She have a daughter who's also
good,
interested in geothermal.
Oh, yes.
And good evening to you and your husband also. And but we have to run.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Henderson, your final comments. And
very thanks, as I said, and I see this as a beginning of a great thing for Dominica, and I would hate to see us miss that opportunity. We have a unique opportunity here, and we have to maximize it. There are a number of things that we have to do as a country, as a people, collectively, and to ensure that we can take decisions soberly and in the best interests of the country. There is still great potential in geothermal in Dominica, but there is but there is actually a geothermal resource that has been well proven and very mature in its development, studying it and knowing the behavior. And I think there's some investments that have to be made and there are sacrifices to be made, but it's in the interest of the development of the country in the future. The investments we make today, these are investments that would normally last for 50 years. A geothermal plant properly maintained can easily give you 50, 60 years. And similarly, the investments we're making in transmission networks, these are infrastructure that will be here for another generation. And to make that kind of investment in the future, when you really think of the future of a country, I mean, there's no other investment except for your human resource development that you can make in the interest of your people and talking about the future. And I think we have to expand on this. The Prime Minister has given his commitment that we are not going to stop here, that we will continue, we will expand. And my job is to ensure that I lead that process, but to give the government the best possible advice. I still feel that, we have to look within ourselves, I'll put it that way, politely, and not get carried away. There is enough learning here. There's enough collective knowledge that we have gained over these many years of walking down that road that we need to put to application to the benefit of our people. And the only way we can do that is by listening to those people who themselves have been in the front line of this. And I think too often we seem to forget that. It is not an easy journey, and a lot of things look easy from outside, but when you really get down to the day-to-day running and pushing and struggling and disappointments and trying to make things work, and like I say, you never have a deal until you have a deal. A bankable deal is not what you think, but it is in fact what the people involved, their expectations, their requirements, and it takes a lot of work, a lot of time. But I know we can do this, we can continue growing this, we can continue developing this, we can look at other opportunities, other prospects. The north is still there. Again, we have to be smart about things. We have been burnt before, we've gone down so many roads before, and without success. But we have to put that, apply the learning into something sensible and not get carried away and not let the world see us as people who are confused and not sure what they're about, because there's a great opportunity here and we have to maximize that. So nothing is perfect, and I like the point that some caller made. I think I said that let's get this done. Yeah. We'll fix the problems as we move along.
Yes.
And let's just commit ourselves to doing that.
Yes.
And hey, there is full transparency. There is no game playing. I have to say, Domlec has really been very cooperative, very supportive, very responsive, and the teams are working well together. And we have to continue.
One thing we forget to make mention of, which is critical to the process,
please,
of getting the power to the national grid and ultimately to the homes and the business places, and to have a seamless process of sending it to Domlec, and the decision to acquire Domlek.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
man, that's a big one.
Yeah, made it easier.
Ouch.
And the power purchase agreement,
Ouch.
etc. All these things that are
Yeah,
critical elements
that's right.
that we need to discuss.
Well, that was a deliberate decision,
Yeah,
and
yes,
I
yes.
have to thank the Prime Minister for
Right.
accepting my advice. I remember we tried it the first time.
Yes, yes.
It didn't work. After Maria, we started, and because of the destruction, I remember Emera decided they wanted to at least reinstate the power before they moved to the sale. We were able to push through. I was given the charge by the Prime Minister. I brought in again a former technical support assistant from the Clinton Foundation, Dave Winstrop. We were able to negotiate a deal with Domlek. We started really high and we came down to a price that was acceptable. And we felt that it was important to make that acquisition because we knew that post-Hurricane Maria, Emera would have been asking for a huge increase on consumers.
Yeah.
That's one. And two, we felt that the interface between geothermal and Domlek would have been challenging, and it would be better if we had the full control in shares in Domlek so that we can manage the process more seamlessly, and which is what we're seeing. Francine Barron heading the board of Domlek, and all the good people who are in there are very supportive, very helpful, and I think that has made a significant, huge difference, because I remember the days negotiating with Emera even before we had a plant, and we were able to get these things through, work collaboratively on the power purchase agreement, try to make it as commercial as possible, but again, we're able to provide Domlek with things that otherwise would not have been able to provide them with if we had not owned the majority shares. So for example, the guarantee that we created using grant funding from the Global Environment Facility, I don't think that would have been possible. But we're able to use that facility because it is Dominica's money. Normally we get $8 million US from them every cycle, and we were able to utilize the majority of that 8 million to create that guarantee for Domlek because we felt that it is part of what was required because we own that facility. So that was a great move, and I really want to thank the Prime Minister for going ahead with that acquisition. I feel it has made a big difference.
Well, so because people really think it's sometimes maybe the Prime Minister stayed in his window in Vickers and drinking some coffee and said, is the system well thought of?
Yeah,
deliberate.
It was part of it.
And of course, a part of the process.
Yeah,
so this so far has been a journey characterized by falls, but we actually survived. Not only we survived the falls, and then we're seeing the progress. And I'm very grateful that you came there tonight. I had to try to convince you you're here tonight, and then your knowledge was manifested itself tonight, and I believe it speaks to the caliber of talent we have within this administration and in Dominica by extension.
And we didn't talk much about our underground transmission lines where we had so many Dominican companies working. We have CCL, Chris Walter and his company. We have Ace Engineering doing one of the substations, regional contractors. I mean, this whole project, this whole development have created over 200 jobs for Dominicans. And we're talking over a period of 2 years in some cases. So for almost a year plus in the transmission. So this is also generating economic activity, and we're grateful for that. And we're grateful for the many Dominicans who have worked diligently on this project. I want to thank them for that.
Okay, bro, wonderful program tonight. We'll be back for part 2 in due time. And in the meantime, let me again say thank you very much to wonderful listeners, and keep on listening to the number one station. I'm going to leave you with a song from the maestro himself, the Mighty Sparrow.
Good night.